Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare! Chapter 1, A New Frost Awakens. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the mountains surrounding Konoha, casting the village in the soft glow of twilight. The training grounds were mostly empty, save for Naruto, who stood in the middle of the arena, looking unusually pensive. His usual energy was tempered by something different today, something new, something strange. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, his breath coming out in ragged puffs. He'd been training all afternoon, pushing himself harder than usual, determined to improve. But today wasn't like any other day. Today, something had awoken inside him. "Alright, let's do this," he muttered to himself, clenching his fists. He focused his chakra, just like he had hundreds of times before, preparing for a Rasengan. The energy began to swirl around his hand, but then something unexpected happened. The wind picked up, cold and biting, whipping around him as if responding to his chakra. His Rasengan flickered for a moment, then shifted, no longer a swirling ball of chakra, but something else. A wave of icy mist enveloped him, freezing the ground beneath his feet in an instant. Naruto's eyes widened as his breath became visible, his hands trembling. He hadn't meant to do this. His chakra was unstable, uncontainable. And now it was releasing something he didn't understand. What the heck, he whispered, staring in awe and confusion at the ice spreading around him, creeping up his legs. Suddenly, the cold increased, frost forming on his clothes, the ice creeping up his arms. His heart raced as he struggled to control the new power within him. The wind howled, and Naruto fought to concentrate, but his mind was in chaos. The temperature plummeted, and for the first time in years, he felt the overwhelming pressure of something that wasn't within his control. Just then, he heard a familiar voice cut through the frigid air. "Naruto! What are you doing?" It was Ino. Naruto turned, his breath fogging in the air as he saw her running toward him, her brow furrowed with concern. She slid to a stop in front of him, her hand instinctively reaching out as if to touch him, but she hesitated. She could feel the cold radiating off him. "Ino, Naruto stammered, trying to regain his focus. "I don't know what's happening. This isn't my doing." Ino looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly as she took in the icy aura surrounding him. "Naruto," she said softly, her voice steady but filled with concern, "this isn't just a random fluctuation. You've unlocked something, haven't you?" Naruto blinked. "What?" "No, I mean." "Don't lie to me," Ino interrupted, her tone cutting through his panic. "You've got ice release, Naruto. This chakra, it's not like yours. It's something else." He froze for a moment, his heart pounding. Ice release? He had never heard of such a thing. Sure, he knew about elemental chakra natures, but this? This was something beyond even the most advanced techniques he'd studied. But how? Naruto began, his voice shaking as the cold continued to invade his senses. "How do I control this? How do I make it stop?" Ino stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Take a deep breath, Naruto," she said calmly. "I'll help you." But you need to trust me. He nodded, his throat tight. He hadn't realized how much he'd been relying on Ino's steady presence until now. She had always been there for him, through thick and thin, and right now, he needed her more than ever. Ino raised her hand, focusing her chakra. Let me help you channel this energy. We need to center your focus. Clear your mind. Naruto took a deep breath, doing his best to listen. But the rush of unfamiliar power was overwhelming, and the ice continued to spread, inching closer to her feet. Naruto, you need to focus. Ino's voice was firm, and she placed her hand on his arm. You're stronger than this. You've overcome bigger obstacles before. I believe in you. The warmth of her touch grounded him. Her words, her presence, calmed the storm within him. He closed his eyes and focused, trying to clear his mind of the panic. Slowly, the ice stopped spreading. The wind died down, and the biting cold began to fade. When he opened his eyes, Ino was still standing in front of him, her face soft with concern, but also with a kind of relief. You did it, she said, her voice quieter now. But Naruto, what was that? Naruto looked down at his hands, still tingling with the remnants of the icy energy he had unleashed. I don't know, he muttered. But I've got to figure it out. I can't let this power take over. Ino studied him for a long moment before speaking. You're not alone in this, Naruto. Whatever this is, you don't have to face it by yourself. I'm here to help. Her words, simple yet sincere, filled him with a sense of warmth that was more powerful than any ice. He nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. Thanks, Ino, he said, his voice a little steadier now. I'm lucky to have you by my side. Ino smiled back, though a hint of worry still lingered in her eyes. She had no idea what this new power meant, but one thing was certain. She would stand by Naruto, no matter what challenges came next. Chapter 2, Whispers of the Past. The sun was low on the horizon as Naruto and Ino walked side by side toward the Hokage's office. Despite the serenity of the evening, Naruto felt restless. The ice, his new, uncontrollable power, still lingered in the back of his mind, like a faint whisper he couldn't shake off. Every step he took, every breath, seemed to remind him of how out of control he was. Naruto ran a hand through his spiky hair, frustrated. Why now? He thought, his brow furrowing. Why did this power have to come to me? Ino, walking next to him, glanced over with a concerned look on her face. She could tell that Naruto was troubled, though he was trying his best to hide it. He'd always been the optimistic, loud, and determined ninja, but ever since that incident earlier in the training grounds, he seemed distant. Not like his usual self at all. I wish I knew what was going on inside his head, Ino thought, keeping her gaze forward. I want to help him, but he won't let anyone in. Her fingers flexed as she walked, but she quickly clenched her fists again. Her mind was busy with the possibilities of what Naruto's sudden ice release could mean. Could this be something that had been dormant in his family's bloodline? Or perhaps something far older and more dangerous? The village had long speculated about the origins of Naruto's unique abilities, but this was something entirely different. The two of them approached the Hokage's office, where Tsunade was waiting for them. She didn't appear surprised to see Naruto, though there was a visible line of concern etched on her face. Ah, Naruto, Ino, Tsunade greeted them as they entered, her voice steady but careful. I've heard about your situation. Naruto nodded but kept his expression neutral. He didn't want to dive into it just yet. There was too much uncertainty swirling inside him, too much fear of what he didn't understand. What did you find out? Ino asked, her voice calm but laced with an underlying anxiety. She could feel it too, the tension in the air. Tsunade motioned for them to sit. Naruto and Ino settled into chairs in front of her desk. Tsunade leaned back, folding her arms as she studied Naruto closely. "We've been doing some research on your condition," Tsunade began. "What you unleashed earlier today was ice release. But it's not just any ice release. This chakra, it's connected to something ancient. Something that might be tied to the Uzumaki clan's distant ancestors." Naruto's heart skipped a beat at the mention of his clan. The Uzumaki clan, with their strong chakra and unique abilities, had been wiped out long ago. He had never known much about them, other than what he had heard from Jiraiya and other village elders. "But how?" Naruto blurted out. "Why me? I don't even know what this power is. I couldn't control it, it was like it had a mind of its own." Ino watched him closely, her heart aching. She knew that Naruto had always felt like he was different, isolated because of the 9 tails sealed inside him. But this was something else entirely. Is this just another part of Naruto's burden? She wondered. Tsunade sighed, glancing down at her desk. Then back at Naruto. "There are theories, but no concrete answers yet. It could be that the ice release power was dormant in the Uzumaki bloodline, waiting to surface. It might have been triggered by your own unique chakra, your connection to the 9 tails, or perhaps even by the emotional strain you've been under in recent months." Naruto's eyes widened at the mention of his connection to Kurama. He had always struggled with balancing the power of the 9 tails, but this was something he couldn't explain. Could this be the result of Kurama's chakra? He wondered. But why ice? Ino's thoughts, however, were consumed by something else. "I know Naruto's always been unpredictable, but this new power, it feels dangerous. He almost lost control earlier. What if he can't master it?" Ino's worry grew deeper. She had been through a lot with Naruto, always by his side during the hardest battles and the toughest times. But this was different. The weight of something unknown, something ancient, was hanging over them both now. "We've reached out to the elders," Tsunade continued, snapping Ino out of her thoughts. "They'll need time to dig into the archives, but there's one thing I do know. The ice release is not something you can simply ignore. You'll need training to control it." Naruto's eyes flickered with a mix of determination and uncertainty. "Training? I can't even control it properly, and I could barely keep it from freezing the whole village. How am I supposed to train with something this dangerous?" Ino placed a hand gently on Naruto's arm, her touch soft but reassuring. "We'll figure it out, Naruto. You've overcome so much before. You can do this." Naruto looked at her, his blue eyes full of gratitude but also doubt. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe in himself. But the fear of not being able to control this new power was overwhelming. Tsunade stood up and walked over to the window, her expression serious. "Naruto, you won't be alone in this. Ino's right. You've come a long way, and this won't stop you. But you need to understand something, this power might be linked to your family, but it's yours now. You have to accept that. If you don't, you'll only be consumed by it." Naruto's fists clenched as he stood up, pacing the room. Accept it? He wasn't sure he could. This power was foreign, dangerous, and yet it was part of him now. He had spent his entire life struggling to control the power inside him. Now this? His thoughts were a jumbled mess of doubt and fear. Ino watched him, understanding the weight of his internal struggle. Naruto's never backed down before, but this is different. This is his past, his heritage, and it's scarier than anything he's faced before. He doesn't just have to fight for the village now, he has to fight for himself. Naruto stopped pacing and turned back to face Tsunade, determination slowly returning to his voice. "Fine," he said, his voice steady. "I'll train. I'll do whatever it takes to control this power. But I need help. I'm not doing this alone." Ino smiled at him, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. She could see the old Naruto returning, the one who didn't give up, the one who always moved forward. But now, she would be there beside him, just like she always had been. Good, Tsunade said, nodding. We'll set up a training plan. For now, rest. Tomorrow, we'll begin. Naruto glanced at Ino again, his smile softer now. Thanks, Ino. I know I can't do this without you. Ino's heart fluttered. You don't have to do it alone, she replied, her voice gentle. We're in this together. As the two of them left the Hokage's office, Ino felt a surge of warmth. Naruto's always been someone who fights for everyone else. But maybe now, he'll fight for himself too. Naruto, on the other hand, felt the weight of the day's revelations pressing down on him. I'll fight. I have to. But somewhere deep inside, there was a flicker of something else, a small, quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this new power could be a part of his future, not just a burden. Chapter 3, Frozen Memories. The morning after their meeting with Tsunade, Naruto found himself standing alone on a training field just outside the village. The air was crisp, the sun barely cresting over the horizon. It was a calm, still morning, the kind that usually made him feel peaceful. But today, the quiet was deafening. Naruto stood still, his hands clenched by his sides, staring down at the earth beneath his feet. The ground was cracked and frosted from his outburst the previous day. Small, delicate layers of ice remained, creeping across the dirt as though the land itself had frozen in fear. This is what I'm capable of now, he thought, looking at the remnants of his power. But I can't even control it. What if it gets worse? He knew that this wasn't just about learning a new technique. This was about taming something wild, something that could easily spiral out of control, something that might consume him. What if I hurt someone? What if I freeze the whole village? His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned, his heart jumping in his chest. It was Ino, as expected. She was already dressed for training, her hair tied back in her usual style, and a determined look in her eyes. Naruto, we're ready to begin, Ino said, her voice steady but laced with a hint of concern. Naruto forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah. Let's get started. Ino paused for a moment, studying him carefully. She could feel the unease radiating off him, even if he was trying to hide it. He had always been the type to mask his emotions behind a grin or a loud voice, but she knew him too well now. The doubt in his heart was impossible to ignore. He's terrified, Ino thought, her heart aching. I don't think he's ever been this uncertain about anything. And it's this power, it's eating him up from the inside. She stepped closer to him. Hey, look at me, she said softly, her tone firm but gentle. You're not alone in this, all right? We'll take it slow. You're not going to lose control, not if we do this together. Naruto looked at her, his face a mixture of determination and doubt. I don't know, Ino, this power is nothing like anything I've ever faced. What if I can't control it? What if it destroys me? Ino's expression softened. She knew better than anyone what it was like to feel overwhelmed, to face an unknown power that threatened to take control. She had struggled with her own insecurities for years, but she had always pushed through. And now, she would do the same for him. You've faced worse things than this, Naruto. You can handle it. You've always found a way to push through, no matter what. He looked at her, and for the first time that day, his smile reached his eyes. Yeah, you're right. I've faced a lot worse. But this is different. Ino nodded. Exactly. And this time, you don't have to face it alone. I'll be here, every step of the way. Just like I've always been. Naruto took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. She's right. I'm not alone in this. I don't have to fight it by myself. He glanced down at his hands. All right. Let's do it. The training begins. They spent the next few hours training in silence. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the training field. Ino stood a few meters away, observing Naruto's movements closely, while Naruto struggled to center his chakra. Naruto's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, doubts, and fears. Come on, focus. You've controlled the nine tails, right? This should be easier, right? But the more he tried to focus, the more the ice surged through him. His chakra was erratic, swirling like a storm inside him, and every time he tried to push it back, the wind picked up, and ice began to form around him once again. Ino could feel the disturbance in the air, the sudden chill that seemed to grow stronger with each passing second. She quickly activated her sensory abilities, keeping a watchful eye on Naruto's chakra. "Easy, Naruto," she called out, her voice gentle but commanding. "Focus. Breathe. Don't fight it." Naruto's hands trembled as the ice spread across his arms. His breath fogged in the cold air as his mind struggled to keep up with the growing pressure inside him. "I'm trying, Ino," he snapped, frustration evident in his voice. "But it's like my body isn't listening to me. I don't know what to do." Ino closed her eyes, focusing intently on his chakra. He's pushing too hard, she realized. He's forcing it instead of guiding it. His chakra is so wild, and the more he fights it, the worse it gets. She stepped forward, her voice calm and soothing. "Naruto, stop. Just stop for a moment." He froze, the ice beginning to recede from his body. He turned toward her, his expression filled with confusion. "What? What do you mean? I have to keep going." Ino shook her head. "No, you don't. You're trying to control it with force. But that's not the way. You need to let it flow. Guide it. Just like you did with your Rasengan. Remember how you learned to control that power, how you made it yours. This is the same thing." Naruto stared at her, his chest tightening. He remembered the way he had learned to harness his chakra over the years, the long, grueling hours of training, the failures, the pain, and eventually the triumph. But this was different. "I don't even understand it," Naruto thought. "How am I supposed to control something I don't even understand?" But Ino's words echoed in his mind. "Guide it. Let it flow." He nodded, trying to quiet the storm inside him. His hands slowly relaxed, and he exhaled deeply, focusing on his chakra. He didn't fight it. He didn't push it. Instead, he let it come naturally, just like when he first learned to use the Rasengan. The wind around him began to die down. The ice that had been creeping up his arms slowly melted, and the chill that had taken over the air seemed to dissipate. Naruto's breath steadied. "I did it," he thought, the weight on his shoulders lightening. "I finally did it." Ino watched him closely, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "That's it. He's starting to get it. He just needs to trust himself more." She stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did great, Naruto. You're getting the hang of it." Naruto turned toward her, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "I did? Really?" Ino nodded. "Yeah. You just have to trust yourself more. You've got this." The challenge of the past. Just as Naruto and Ino were about to continue their training, the ground beneath them began to shake. A distant rumble echoed through the air. Ino's senses went on high alert. "Stay on guard, Naruto," Ino said, her tone suddenly serious. "Something's coming." Naruto nodded, the smile disappearing from his face as the familiar surge of adrenaline coursed through his veins. "What is it?" Before Ino could respond, a group of masked figures emerged from the trees surrounding the field. They were fast, their movements swift and calculated. Each of them carried an aura of danger, and Naruto instinctively tensed. Who are these guys? He thought, his hand instinctively moving toward his kunai pouch. Ino stepped closer to him, her eyes scanning the attackers. I don't know, but they don't look friendly. One of the masked figures stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with cold malice. Naruto Uzumaki. We've been waiting for you. Naruto's heart raced. What do they want with me? Ino's voice was low but clear. Stay behind me. I'll protect you. Naruto shook his head, stepping forward. No. I can handle this. The masked figure's laugh echoed in the silence. You think you can control that power of yours? Let's see if you're ready to face the truth about what you really are. Chapter 4, The First Battle. The morning sun had fully risen now, casting long shadows across the village as Naruto and Ino prepared for another training session. But today felt different. There was a quiet unease hanging in the air, like a storm was waiting to break. Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something dangerous. As the two of them stood in the middle of the training field, Ino kept her eyes fixed on Naruto, watching the way his hands flexed and his eyes scanned the area. His posture was stiff, his movements precise but tense, as if he were waiting for something to happen. Naruto shifted his weight and looked at Ino. I can feel it, too. Something's off, he said, his voice low. Ino nodded, her expression mirroring his. It's not just you. The air's different today. It feels charged. Before Naruto could respond, the ground beneath their feet suddenly shook, and the trees surrounding them rustled violently. A low rumbling sound echoed through the valley, sending a chill through the air. In an instant, Naruto's chakra flared up, instinctively reaching for his ice release, but he quickly reined it in. What is it? He muttered, looking around warily. I don't know, Ino said, her voice tinged with concern. But we need to be ready. Just as she finished speaking, a gust of wind swept through the field, and several figures appeared from the trees. They were dressed in dark, hooded cloaks, their faces hidden by masks. Each one moved with deadly precision, as though they had trained for this moment for years. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest as he recognized their movement. These were no ordinary enemies. They were skilled, experienced, and their presence sent an unsettling chill through the air. His hand instinctively reached for his kunai, but his mind kept returning to the ice inside him. I can't let it get out of control again, he thought desperately. I need to focus. Ino stepped forward, her hand hovering over her own weapon pouch. Naruto, stay sharp. These guys, they're not like anything we've faced before. The leader of the group, a tall figure with a red mask, stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. His voice was low and calculating. So, this is the legendary Naruto Uzumaki. You've been quite a nuisance, haven't you? Naruto's eyes narrowed. Who are you? And what do you want with me? The masked figure chuckled darkly. We want to test your strength, Uzumaki. You've been chosen because of what you carry within you, the power of ice release. But we also know that you are weak. Your control is unstable. Ino stood her ground next to Naruto, sensing the danger in the air. She could feel his chakra swirling dangerously, the ice power barely contained within him. This isn't just an attack. They're testing him, she realized. They're trying to provoke him, get him to lose control. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the weight of their words. He wasn't going to let them intimidate him, not this time. He had trained. He had fought worse than this. I can do this. I won't lose control, he repeated to himself. Get ready, Naruto, Ino warned, her eyes scanning the enemy's movements. These guys are serious. Without another word, the masked leader gave a signal, and the group charged. Naruto's instincts kicked in, and he rushed forward, dodging a kunai aimed at his chest. He quickly countered with a kunai of his own, his movements swift but controlled. Ino wasn't far behind, using her agility to avoid another set of weapons thrown at them. "They're fast," Naruto thought as he fought, parrying another attack. "But I'm faster." The battle escalated quickly, with Naruto and Ino working in sync, their movements fluid and precise. Despite the strength of their opponents, Naruto could feel his own power growing as he fought. But with every strike, every dodge, the icy power within him seemed to grow stronger as well. It wasn't just his chakra reacting, it was his emotions, the tension, the anger that was beginning to rise inside him. Ino noticed the shift in his chakra immediately. His control was slipping again. She reached out with her sensory abilities, trying to center him, to bring him back before the ice could fully consume him. "Focus, Naruto," she thought, her mind reaching for him. "Focus on me, on the mission, not the power. Control it." Naruto heard her words in his mind, and they helped him steady his breath, if only for a moment. He focused on Ino's presence, her steady heartbeat, her calm energy, the way her chakra flowed in sync with his. "I'm not alone," he thought, his grip tightening around his kunai. "I won't lose control." He pushed forward again, this time with purpose. He dodged a kunai and, using his ice release, slammed his palm into the ground, sending a wave of ice toward their attackers. The masked figures skidded to a halt, barely avoiding the sudden surge of frozen earth that erupted beneath them. "I did it," Naruto thought, his heart pounding. "I'm starting to control it." But before he could take another step, the leader of the masked group appeared before him in an instant, his speed shocking Naruto. He swung his weapon, a sharp, curved blade, aimed directly at Naruto's chest. No time to dodge, Naruto realized, panic rising in his chest. But just as the blade came down, Ino's voice echoed in his mind, stronger than before. "Focus. You can do this." With a rush of adrenaline, Naruto instinctively raised his hand, blocking the blow with his ice. The blade made contact with the frozen shield he had created at the last moment, the sound of metal scraping against ice ringing in the air. But it wasn't enough to stop the force of the attack. The shock sent a jolt through his arm, and he staggered back, his footing slipping on the ice beneath him. Ino immediately closed the distance between them, using her agility to leap in front of him. She raised her own hand, sending out a wave of her chakra to push their attackers back. "Stay focused, Naruto," she shouted, her voice full of determination. The leader of the group smirked, clearly enjoying the chaos. "You're stronger than we expected, Uzumaki. But your control is still lacking. If you want to defeat us, you'll have to learn to control that power." Naruto's chest tightened as the words hit him. He's right. I can't keep losing control. I have to keep it together. Ino's presence was like an anchor, her chakra a steady pulse against his chaotic emotions. He turned to her, meeting her eyes for a brief moment. In that exchange, he could see the trust she had in him. The faith she held, even when he doubted himself. "I can't let her down. I can't lose control." Taking a deep breath, Naruto steadied himself. The ice within him began to calm, the storm inside his mind slowly dissipating. He turned to face their attackers with renewed determination. "I won't let you win," he declared, his voice steady. With that, Naruto raised both hands and channeled his chakra into a massive surge of ice that spread across the battlefield, forcing their attackers back. The ice formed into towering walls, trapping the masked figures in place. Ino's eyes widened in awe as she saw the power Naruto had just unlocked. It was controlled, calculated, not the wild outburst it had been earlier. "You did it, Naruto," she whispered, a smile forming on her lips. Naruto stood tall, his breath steady but his heart racing. "I did it," he thought again. "I controlled it." The leader of the masked group scowled. "This isn't over, Uzumaki. We'll be back." But Naruto was already focused on the next step, knowing that he had passed this first test, if only for now. He turned to Ino, his heart still pounding in his chest. "Thanks, Ino. I couldn't have done it without you," he said, his voice full of gratitude. Ino smiled softly, her eyes filled with pride. "We make a good team, don't we?" Naruto smiled back, his doubt starting to fade. Together, he thought. We can do anything. Chapter 5, The Dance of Ice and Mind. The aftermath of the battle with the masked group left the training field covered in ice and debris. Naruto and Ino stood in the center of the battlefield, the remnants of their enemies encased in thick sheets of ice. Naruto's chest heaved with each breath, his hands still trembling from the intensity of the fight. He had been able to control the ice, at least for a brief moment, but the effort had left him drained. "I did it," Naruto thought, his mind replaying the moment when he'd forced his chakra into the ice, stabilizing it long enough to push their attackers back. But what if it wasn't enough? What if next time? I can't control it? Ino stood beside him, her arms folded across her chest as she watched the frozen landscape. Despite the victory, she could sense the uncertainty lingering within him. She had seen it in his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped slightly when the adrenaline from the battle faded. "Don't overthink it, Naruto," Ino said softly, noticing the shift in his demeanor. "You did well today. You controlled the ice. That's huge." Naruto glanced at her, his blue eyes filled with a mixture of pride and doubt. I don't know if I can keep it under control. Every time I use it, it feels like it's going to slip away from me." Ino shook her head, taking a step closer to him. "You've made huge progress already. Just look at what you accomplished today. You pushed them back. You didn't freeze everything in sight. That's control." Naruto exhaled sharply, but a small smile tugged at his lips. "I guess you're right. I still feel like I'm on the edge of losing it." Ino studied him carefully, her gaze softening. "Naruto," she thought, her heart aching. "You've always carried the weight of the world on your shoulders, haven't you? This power, this new burden, I don't want to see it break you." "I'll help you," she said suddenly, surprising him with the quiet firmness in her voice. "We'll train more, together. I know you can handle this, but you need someone to help you stay grounded." Naruto blinked, meeting her eyes. For a moment, everything around him seemed to fade away, the sounds of the battle, the tension in the air, everything but Ino's unwavering gaze. "I don't want to fail again," he murmured, the vulnerability in his voice stark. "I've messed up so many times before, Ino. I don't know if I can keep going with this power. What if I can't control it? What if it ends up controlling me?" Ino took a deep breath, stepping closer to him. Her voice was gentle, but filled with an inner strength that Naruto had always admired. "You won't fail. Not if you trust me, and not if you trust yourself. You've faced worse than this. Remember the pain you've gone through, the battles you've fought. This is just another challenge. And you're not alone in it." Naruto felt a warmth spread through him as her words sank in. "I'm not alone," he repeated to himself. "I have people who believe in me. I'll do it," he said, his voice filled with newfound resolve. "I'll control it. I'll make sure I don't hurt anyone." Ino smiled, her eyes bright with pride. "That's the Naruto I know. Training at the edge." Over the following days, Naruto and Ino continued their training, pushing themselves further each time. The bond between them deepened as they worked side by side, each learning from the other. Ino's analytical approach to strategy and chakra control was the perfect complement to Naruto's raw energy and determination. Despite the difficulties, they made progress, slow but steady. But no matter how hard Naruto tried, there was always a lingering feeling of fear. The ice inside him, though more controlled, was still unpredictable. There were times when his chakra flared out of control, and the cold that spread from his body was like a constant reminder of the power he could barely hold at bay. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling training session, Ino suggested something different. "Let's try something new today," she said, her voice calm but firm. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow and looked at her, a little confused. "What do you mean? We've been doing the same thing for days." "I know," Ino replied with a smile. "But it's time for a different approach. We need to work on your mental focus. Your control over the ice isn't just about chakra, it's about your mind. You need to be able to control your emotions, your thoughts, and not let the ice take over. It's all about your mind." Naruto looked at her, processing her words. "Control my mind," he repeated in his head. "Maybe that's the missing piece." Ino continued, "I'm going to help you tap into your subconscious. We've worked on your physical chakra control, but now we need to focus on mental clarity. If you can center your mind, you'll have better control over the ice. You've been through a lot, Naruto. There are things in your past that might still be clouding your thoughts." Naruto's heart skipped a beat as he realized what she was suggesting. "She wants me to confront my past, my fears," he thought, a small knot forming in his stomach. "I've never really faced it head-on. Maybe this is the key." "I don't know if I'm ready for that," he said quietly, his voice tinged with hesitation. Ino's expression softened, understanding his fears. She took a step forward and placed a hand gently on his arm. "Naruto, I know it's not easy. But you don't have to do it alone. We'll do it together. I'll guide you through it." Naruto nodded slowly, his mind racing. "If this is what it takes," he thought. "I have to try." The mind transfer. Ino activated her mind transfer jutsu, focusing her chakra to connect with Naruto's mind. She could feel the warmth of his thoughts, the swirl of emotions inside him. It wasn't just the fear of the ice, it was everything he had ever experienced, everything he had ever lost. It was all tangled up inside him, a mess of pain, loss, hope, and determination. Naruto closed his eyes as Ino's presence entered his mind. He could feel her guiding him, steadying his thoughts as he descended into the depths of his subconscious. "This is it," he thought. "I have to face it. I can't keep running away." Inside his mind, Naruto found himself standing in a vast, snow-covered landscape. The cold air bit at his skin, and in the distance, he could see a figure, a silhouette he recognized instantly. "Mom?" he thought, his heart pounding in his chest. The figure turned, and Naruto could see her face, his mother, Kushina Uzumaki, smiling warmly at him. But then her smile began to fade, her form flickering like a mirage, and before Naruto could reach her, she vanished into the swirling snowstorm around him. "Mom!" Naruto cried out, his voice lost in the wind. Why does it always feel like she's just out of reach?" Ino's voice echoed in his mind, soft and steady. "Naruto, focus. This is part of your past. It's not your reality anymore. You're stronger than this." Naruto clenched his fists, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "I have to face it. I can't run from it anymore." He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, and when he opened them again, the snowstorm was gone. In its place was a calm, peaceful scene, a memory of a time when he had been truly happy. He saw his friends, his village, and the people who had always been there for him. Ino's voice filled his mind once more. "This is who you are, Naruto. Not the past, not the pain. You've grown beyond that. You are more than the burdens you carry." Naruto nodded slowly, his heart still heavy but growing lighter with each passing moment. "I can do this," he thought. "I am not alone." The return. Naruto's eyes fluttered open, and he found himself back in the training field, with Ino standing before him. The air was calm now, the ice no longer overwhelming his body. "You did it," Ino said with a smile, her eyes filled with warmth and pride. "You faced your fears." Naruto exhaled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Yeah. I did." He smiled at her, feeling more at peace than he had in a long time. "Thanks, Ino. I couldn't have done it without you." Ino smiled back, her heart swelling with pride. "We make a good team, don't we?" Naruto grinned. "The best team." And for the first time, Naruto truly believed it. Chapter 6: A Festival of Feelings. The village was alive with excitement. The annual Konoha festival had arrived, a time when the shinobi and villagers alike came together to celebrate their victories, honor their heroes, and simply enjoy the peace they had fought so hard to attain. The streets were lined with vibrant lanterns, food stalls were set up, and the air was filled with the hum of music, laughter, and chatter. For Naruto, this was a rare opportunity to relax and forget about the constant pressure of being a ninja, of being the Hokage hopeful. He had spent so much time focusing on his training, especially with his new ice release powers, that he had barely given himself a break. Today, he had promised himself he'd enjoy the festival. At least for a little while. Ino had insisted on meeting him at the festival entrance, and as Naruto approached, he spotted her standing near a food stall, looking as beautiful as ever. She was dressed in a light blue yukata adorned with delicate floral patterns, and her hair was tied up neatly, a few strands framing her face softly. Her usual sharpness was replaced with a sense of calm that Naruto couldn't help but appreciate. As he neared, Ino looked up and gave him a warm smile. "About time you showed up," she teased. "I was starting to think you'd leave me to enjoy the festival alone." Naruto grinned back, adjusting the headband on his forehead. "I wouldn't dream of it, Ino. Besides, I had to make sure I didn't freeze everything in sight this time." Ino chuckled, her eyes glinting with amusement. "Well, if you could manage to control that ice of yours, maybe we could have some fun today." Naruto smiled sheepishly. "I'm trying, okay? Baby steps." The two of them wandered through the festival grounds, enjoying the sights and sounds. Naruto couldn't remember the last time he had spent a day like this. A day without worrying about the next mission, the next battle, or the next training session. Just being in the moment. And it was easy to forget, in this atmosphere, that there was anything else going on in their lives. The crowds, the laughter, the music, it was all a welcome distraction. Naruto's stomach rumbled, and Ino laughed. "Hungry already, huh?" "Maybe a little," Naruto said, grinning. "I didn't exactly eat much this morning." They stopped at a food stall where the scent of freshly cooked food filled the air. There were several options: skewered meat, rice cakes, and the festival's signature sweet dumplings. Naruto's eyes gleamed as he looked over the selection. "I'll take everything," he said without hesitation. Ino raised an eyebrow. "You're really going to eat everything?" Naruto laughed, his usual carefree self showing. "I'm serious. It's a festival, Ino. I need to celebrate." Ino rolled her eyes, amused. All right. Just don't complain when your stomach's about to burst." They sat down at a nearby bench to enjoy the food. Naruto, as expected, dove right into his meal, stuffing his face with dumplings and meat skewers. Ino, on the other hand, was more composed, enjoying her food in smaller, more deliberate bites. She watched him with a soft smile, finding a strange comfort in the moment. Naruto paused between bites and looked at Ino, his eyes thoughtful. "You know, it's nice to just be here, with you. I haven't really had a day like this in a long time." Ino glanced at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean by that?" Naruto scratched the back of his head, a little embarrassed by his admission. "I mean, I've been so caught up in everything lately. The Hokage stuff, the training, the whole controlling my ice powers thing. I haven't really stopped to enjoy the small things, you know? Like this. Ino's smile softened, and for a moment, she looked away, as if she was contemplating something. Yeah. I get that. It's easy to get lost in everything. But you've got to remember to take breaks sometimes, Naruto. No one can do everything at once, no matter how strong they are. Naruto nodded, his gaze lingering on her. He had always known Ino to be sharp, clever, and full of fire. But today, something about her presence felt different. It was as though the entire festival, the warmth, the laughter, had brought out a side of her that he didn't often see. She was more than just a teammate to him. He realized, in that moment, how much he truly valued her. So, Naruto hesitated for a moment, then looked directly at her. What do you think of all this? The whole Naruto has ice powers thing? Is it weird? Ino raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by the question. Weird? Of course it's weird. But I know you, Naruto. And I know you'll figure it out. You always do. Naruto's chest swelled with warmth. Her confidence in him, her belief that he would overcome any obstacle, was something he'd come to rely on. It felt good, knowing that someone, especially someone like Ino, had his back, no matter what. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm carrying too much, he admitted quietly. I'm still learning to control this power. And every time I think I've got it, I start to doubt myself again. Ino's expression softened, and she placed a hand on his arm. I understand, Naruto. But you're not alone in this. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. I'll be here, every step of the way. Naruto looked down at her hand, his heart racing slightly at the gesture. He hadn't realized how much he had come to depend on her. Or how deeply his feelings for her had grown over time. He opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, the sounds of fireworks filled the air, interrupting the moment. The night sky suddenly erupted into colors, lighting up the entire village in a breathtaking display of light and beauty. Naruto looked up, his eyes wide with wonder. Wow, this is amazing. Ino smiled, her eyes fixed on the fireworks. It really is. For a few moments, the two of them sat in silence, simply enjoying the beauty of the night. The colors reflected in Ino's eyes, her expression relaxed and content. Naruto glanced at her, and in that fleeting moment, something inside him clicked. The bond they shared, the trust they had built, it was stronger than anything he had ever known. Naruto turned to her, his voice soft, but filled with an earnest sincerity. Ino. I want you to know. I couldn't do this without you. You've always been there for me, and I'm so grateful for that. Ino blinked, her cheeks flushing slightly at the sudden admission. She had always known that Naruto depended on her, that they made a good team, but hearing him say it like that, it warmed her heart in a way she wasn't prepared for. She looked away for a moment, trying to hide the flutter in her chest. You're not so bad yourself, Naruto, she teased, though there was a softness in her voice. You can be pretty annoying, but you're a good guy. Naruto grinned, grateful for her teasing, even if it was a bit of a mask for what they both knew was unspoken. He watched the fireworks light up the night sky, feeling a warmth in his heart that he hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, it wasn't just about his ice powers, his training, or the burdens he carried. For the first time, it was about the people who made him feel like he wasn't alone in this world. As the last of the fireworks faded into the night, Naruto and Ino shared a quiet moment, one where the future felt just a little brighter, not because they had the answers, but because they had each other. Chapter 7, Frozen Bonds. The morning sun barely peeked over the horizon, casting a pale orange glow across Konoha. The village had quieted after the festival, the streets now almost deserted. But Naruto was already awake, pacing in his room, the remnants of his thoughts from the previous night still lingering in his mind. I should have said more last night, he thought, his fingers running through his spiky hair. Ino's always there for me, and I don't know if I'm showing her enough how much I appreciate her. The feelings he had for Ino were becoming harder to ignore. Their bond had grown stronger over the past few months, not just as teammates, but as something deeper. Every moment they spent together made him realize just how much she meant to him. But now, standing alone in his room, he was unsure how to express it. What if she doesn't feel the same way? He wondered, his usual confidence shaken by his own insecurities. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Hey, Naruto," Ino's voice called through the door. "You ready to train today? Tsunade's got a mission for us." Naruto snapped out of his thoughts and opened the door, giving Ino a wide grin. "Yeah, I'm ready. Just getting my head straight." Ino studied him for a moment, sensing that something was off. "You sure you're okay? You've been kind of distant lately." Naruto scratched his head, trying to brush off his nervousness. "Nah, I'm good. Just a little tired, that's all." Ino raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. "Alright. But don't think you can hide anything from me. You know I can read you like an open book." Naruto laughed, though it was a little strained. Yeah. Let's get going." Mission briefing. The two of them made their way to the Hokage's office, where Tsunade was waiting with a serious expression. Her usually warm demeanor was replaced by a focused intensity that Naruto and Ino both recognized. "You're being sent on a recon mission," Tsunade explained as they sat down. "There's been a disturbance near the borders of the Fire Country. We've received reports of rogue ninjas causing trouble, and we need you two to investigate. It's a high-priority mission, so I'm sending you both to check it out and make sure the village is safe." Naruto nodded. "Got it, Hokage-sama. We won't let you down." Tsunade gave a sharp nod. "I'm counting on you. Be careful." "And Naruto," she paused, giving him a pointed look. "Remember what I've told you about controlling that power of yours. Don't let it get out of hand." Naruto stiffened slightly at her words, his mind immediately returning to the ice he still struggled to control. "Right. Control. I can do this." He turned to Ino, who gave him an encouraging look. "We'll handle it, Tsunade," Ino said confidently. "Don't worry. We're a good team." As the two of them left the Hokage's office, Naruto couldn't shake the weight of Tsunade's words. Don't let it get out of hand. It was a constant reminder that the ice inside him was still unpredictable. But he couldn't afford to worry about it right now. The mission came first. The journey to the border. Naruto and Ino made their way toward the border of the Fire Country, the trek taking them through dense forests and over rocky terrain. The mission was meant to be a routine investigation, but the deeper they traveled, the more tension seemed to hang in the air. The landscape grew increasingly desolate, the trees sparse, and the air colder than it should have been for this time of year. Ino noticed the change in the environment first. She narrowed her eyes and slowed her pace, instinctively reaching for her weapon's pouch. "Something's off," she murmured, her voice low but filled with caution. Naruto tensed as well, his senses on high alert. He couldn't feel it yet, not the way Ino could, but the atmosphere around them was definitely different. "You think it's the rogue ninjas?" Ino nodded, her eyes scanning their surroundings. "I'm not sure. But whatever it is, we need to be ready." They moved forward cautiously, every step deliberate. The ice inside Naruto stirred again, as though sensing the danger ahead. He clenched his fists, trying to keep it under control. "Focus, Naruto," he thought. "You've got this. Just don't lose it." Suddenly, a cold wind gusted through the trees, and a strange, familiar feeling washed over him. Naruto's chakra flared without warning, and the ice began to form around his body again, slowly at first, then faster as his emotions surged. Ino glanced at him, concern flashing in her eyes. "Naruto. Calm down." Naruto gritted his teeth, trying to control the wave of ice that was spreading out from him. "I can't help it, Ino. I'm trying, but..." Before he could finish, a voice cut through the air, calm but tinged with a cruel edge. Well. Look who it is. The Hokage's little hero and his loyal sidekick." Naruto turned sharply toward the voice, his ice cracking and spreading with every beat of his racing heart. Through the trees, a figure stepped into view, tall, cloaked in dark clothing, and with a sinister air about him. His eyes glowed with malice as he smiled at the two of them. Naruto's instincts kicked in, and without a second thought, he lunged forward, his ice trailing behind him. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger chuckled darkly. "I'm the one who's going to show you just how dangerous that ice of yours can be, Uzumaki." In an instant, the rogue ninja disappeared, his speed taking Naruto by surprise. Naruto's heart skipped a beat as he turned to follow him. But it was too late, the enemy was already above him, descending with a powerful strike aimed at his head. Ino was faster, however. With a flash, she activated her mind transfer jutsu and sent her consciousness into the rogue ninja's mind, freezing him in place for just long enough for Naruto to react. "Now, Naruto!" Ino shouted. Naruto gritted his teeth and threw his hand forward, a burst of ice slamming into the rogue ninja's body and pinning him to the ground. The ice spread like a wave, encasing the rogue in a thick, unbreakable shell. He could feel the ice inside him surging, but this time, he had control. Barely. Ino stood beside him, watching as the rogue struggled within the ice. "That was too close," she said, her voice still calm despite the danger. Naruto's breath was heavy as he looked at her. A mix of exhaustion and relief flooding his body. "Yeah, but we did it. Thanks for the assist, Ino." Ino smiled, though there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "We make a good team. Just, don't lose control next time, okay?" Naruto nodded slowly, his heart still racing from the encounter. "I'll try. I promise." But deep inside, he knew that control was a constant battle, one he would have to keep fighting. And with Ino by his side, he knew he wouldn't have to face it alone. Chapter 8, An Icy Rival. The rogue ninja lay encased in thick ice, his body frozen in place, but his malicious grin never wavered. The icy winds continued to swirl around the area, adding to the sense of unease that had settled over Naruto and Ino. The battle had ended swiftly, but something about it felt unfinished. Naruto stood there, panting heavily, his breath coming in short bursts as he watched the enemy struggle against the ice that held him in place. The ice had been a reflex, his chakra flaring, his emotions heightening, but it was more controlled than before. He had to admit, there was progress. But it didn't feel like a victory yet. He glanced at Ino, who was scanning the surroundings with her usual focus. Her sharp eyes never missed a detail, and Naruto was grateful for that. She had always been the one to keep him grounded. "You okay?" Ino asked, her voice calm but with a hint of concern. Naruto exhaled, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Yeah. Just, still getting used to this power. It's hard to control it when my emotions spike like that." Ino nodded, her expression softening. "You're doing better than you think. It's not easy, but you're improving. Remember, control doesn't happen overnight." Naruto smiled at her, grateful for the encouragement. He knew she was right, but it didn't stop the doubt that crept into his mind. "What if I slip again?" he thought. "What if the ice takes over completely?" Ino's gaze shifted toward the rogue ninja, her brow furrowed. "We need to find out what he was doing here. Who sent him?" Naruto walked toward the frozen figure, his boots crunching on the icy ground. As he approached, the rogue ninja's eyes flickered toward him, still locked in the icy prison. "You think you've won, don't you, Uzumaki?" the rogue sneered. "You're nothing but a puppet of your power. You'll never control it. It will control you." Naruto clenched his fists, the ice around him crackling in response to his rising anger. "What do you know about me?" he growled. The rogue laughed darkly, his breath fogging up the ice. "I know what you are. The ice inside you is only a taste of the true power you're destined to wield. You'll never be free of it, no matter how hard you try." Ino stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about? Who sent you?" The rogue's grin widened, his eyes glinting with something almost sadistic. "You'll find out soon enough. I'll leave you to figure it out, while you're still alive." Before either of them could react, the rogue exploded in a burst of dark chakra, shattering the ice that had trapped him. The ground beneath their feet trembled as the rogue took a step back, his body covered in black markings. The marks seemed to pulse, a dark energy radiating from him like a living shadow. Naruto and Ino both jumped back, their senses on high alert. Ino's eyes widened. "What the hell is that? He's using cursed chakra." Naruto gritted his teeth. "I don't care what he's using. He's not getting away this time." The rogue ninja's voice now sounded almost amused. "You think you can stop me, Naruto Uzumaki? You're just a child with a toy power. Let me show you what real strength looks like." With that, the rogue dashed forward at blinding speed, his hands outstretched to strike. Naruto's eyes widened as the rogue's movement blurred with unnatural speed, faster than anything he had faced before. Before he could react, the rogue's hand landed on his shoulder, sending a jolt of cold, searing energy through his body. The pain was immediate and intense, and Naruto staggered backward, his body freezing in place. "Damn it," he cursed, his vision going blurry from the shock. The ice inside him began to surge out of control. Reacting to the cold energy the rogue had introduced into his body. Ino moved faster than Naruto had anticipated, her mind already executing the strategy she had formulated. "Naruto, focus," she called out. "Don't let it take over." Naruto's body was tense, the ice spreading rapidly as he fought against the rogue's attack. His heart raced, the overwhelming fear threatening to consume him. "I can't lose control. I won't." He forced himself to breathe, pushing the fear aside. Focus on Ino's voice. Focus on her presence. The ice around him began to slow, the growth of the frost pausing as he concentrated. "I won't let it control me." Suddenly, he slammed his fist into the ground, releasing a wave of controlled ice that pushed the rogue back several feet. He quickly stood to his feet, his body still trembling from the energy coursing through him, but the ice was under control again. Ino was right beside him, ready to act. "We can do this together, Naruto. Just stay with me." The rogue, now recovering from the blast, straightened up, his grin still in place. But there was a spark of annoyance in his eyes. Impressive. But not enough. Not nearly enough. Without another word, the rogue launched forward again, his body moving like a blur. But this time, Naruto was ready. He focused his chakra, weaving it together with the ice that had already begun to form around his arms. "Here I come!" Naruto shouted, his eyes narrowing with focus. He thrust his hands forward, creating an enormous wall of ice that rose from the ground like a glacier. The rogue tried to move around it, but Naruto's control over the ice was now sharper, more deliberate. Ino's voice was calm but commanding as she acted from behind him. "Now, Naruto. Push him back." Naruto nodded and slammed his hands down once more. The ice responded, bending to his will. It shot forward, encasing the rogue in a thick layer of ice once again, pinning him to the ground. The rogue let out a frustrated snarl. "You're only delaying the inevitable, Uzumaki. The ice is your enemy, not your ally. It will consume you. Naruto stepped forward, his expression determined. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I won't let it control me. And I sure as hell won't let you control me. The rogue struggled against the ice, his cursed chakra flaring in a last-ditch attempt to break free. But Ino was already on the move. She'd read his movements, prepared for the next move. With a quick gesture, she sent a pulse of chakra directly into the rogue's mind, rendering him immobile. In an instant, Naruto acted. You're done. He raised his hands, and the ice formed one last time, solidifying the rogue's entire body into an impenetrable block of ice. The dark chakra receded, and the rogue's body became motionless. Ino breathed out a sigh of relief, though her expression remained tense. That was too close. Are you alright, Naruto? Naruto stood there, his chest heaving with each breath, the cold still lingering inside his veins. I'm fine, he said, his voice a little shaky. But he's right, Ino. The ice it's a part of me, but it's also dangerous. Ino placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice gentle but filled with determination. It's not the ice that's dangerous, Naruto. It's how you use it. And you'll learn how to control it. You will. Naruto nodded, his resolve hardening. I'm not going to let this power break me. Not now, not ever. He looked at Ino, her support giving him the strength to keep moving forward. Thanks, Ino. We really make a great team. She smiled at him, her eyes filled with pride. Always, Naruto. Chapter 9, The Frozen Heart. The day after their victory over the rogue ninja, Naruto and Ino returned to the Hidden Leaf Village, their hearts still racing from the intensity of the battle. Despite their success, something lingered between them, an unspoken tension that neither could quite name. It wasn't just the danger they had faced together, it was something else, something that had grown quietly between them over the past weeks. Naruto walked alongside Ino, but there was an unmistakable sense of distance between them, despite their closeness. He couldn't stop thinking about how Ino had been there for him during the fight. Her unwavering confidence pulling him back when the ice inside him threatened to consume him completely. Her voice had steadied him when he thought he might lose control. But as they approached the village gates, Naruto couldn't help but feel the weight of something else. He had always admired Ino's strength, her intelligence, and her ability to handle difficult situations. But recently, there was something else stirring in him, a feeling he couldn't quite put into words. Every time he looked at her, he felt his heart race, his thoughts scatter, and a warmth spread through his chest. He didn't know what it was, but it was starting to make him nervous. Hey, Naruto, Ino called, breaking him from his thoughts. You've been awfully quiet. You okay? Naruto glanced at her, catching the concern in her eyes. He felt his heart skip a beat. Damn it, he thought. What's happening to me? Yeah, I'm good, he said quickly, forcing a smile. Just thinking about stuff. Ino studied him for a moment, clearly not convinced. Stuff? You know, you don't have to hide anything from me. We're a team, remember? Naruto scratched the back of his head, feeling the heat rising to his face. Why is this so hard to say? He wondered. He had never been good at talking about his feelings. He was used to hiding his emotions, bottling them up. But now, with Ino so close to him, it was harder to keep pretending everything was normal. I know, he muttered. It's just. I've been feeling a little. I don't know, off lately. With the ice, and everything going on. Ino's expression softened, and she took a step closer to him. You don't have to explain everything. I get it. You've been dealing with a lot. Naruto turned to her, meeting her gaze for a long moment. There was a tenderness in her eyes that made his heart skip again. What is this? Why does this feel different? Before he could say anything else, Ino smiled at him, her eyes glinting mischievously. Well, if you're feeling off, we could always grab something to eat and relax for a bit. You know, take a break from all the crazy ninja stuff. I've been craving some dango. How about it? Naruto blinked, momentarily lost in her smile. Yeah. Sure. That sounds good. A moment together. The two of them sat down at a small outdoor cafe near the village square, the soft sound of nearby conversations and the clinking of dishes filling the air. Ino had ordered their favorite dango skewers, and Naruto eagerly dug into his, the sweet, warm flavor bringing a brief moment of comfort amidst the chaos of the past few days. As they ate, Naruto couldn't help but notice how Ino's gaze seemed to linger on him, a softness in her eyes that made his heart race. She had always been so composed, so confident, but now there was something more to her gaze, something he couldn't ignore. Ino's fingers brushed against his as she handed him another skewer, the touch brief but electric. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, and Naruto felt a strange sensation rush through him. His stomach tightened, his pulse quickened, and he looked up at her, only to find that she was already watching him, her expression unreadable. For a second, time seemed to slow as the air between them thickened. It wasn't just the quiet of the village or the warmth of the dango, it was something else, something unspoken, hanging in the space between them. Ino's lips curved slightly, but there was a hesitation in her eyes, as if she, too, felt the weight of the moment. Naruto swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had always relied on Ino in battle, and he had always respected her. But now, with the growing feelings inside him, it felt like the lines were starting to blur. What is this? He thought, his heart thumping in his chest. Why do I feel like I'm on the edge of something I can't understand? Ino broke the silence first, her voice soft but steady. Naruto, you know, I've been thinking a lot about what happened during the mission. You really pushed yourself to control the ice. I'm proud of you. Naruto looked at her, his chest swelling with warmth at her words. Thanks, Ino. But it's not perfect yet. I'm still not sure I have full control of it. Ino reached out. Her fingers gently brushing his hand again, this time lingering for a moment longer. You're getting there. And I'll be right here with you. We're a team, remember? Naruto's heart skipped a beat at the way her hand rested against his. The warmth of her touch sent a shiver down his spine. Damn it, I can't keep ignoring this, he thought. This feeling, it's only getting stronger. He looked at her, his voice low but filled with sincerity. Ino. I don't know what's happening to me. But I don't want to keep pretending that everything's normal. You mean a lot to me. More than I've ever really said. Ino's breath caught for a moment, her fingers still resting against his. She looked at him, her expression softening, her eyes filled with something that he couldn't quite place. For a brief moment, the bustling sounds of the village faded, leaving only the two of them in the quiet space between them. You don't have to say anything, Naruto, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've always known how much you care. But if you're ready to say it, then I'm ready to listen. Naruto's heart hammered in his chest as he looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. Is this it? He thought. Is this what I've been holding back all this time? Before he could speak, Ino leaned forward, her hand gently squeezing his. She didn't say a word, but the gesture spoke volumes. It was all the reassurance he needed. The world outside seemed to fade as the two of them sat there, their hands intertwined, the silence between them comfortable and filled with understanding. For the first time, Naruto felt like he could breathe, like the burden he had been carrying wasn't his alone anymore. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, Ino leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. We're in this together, Naruto. Always. Naruto smiled, his heart full. Always. The next challenge. Later that night, as Naruto lay in bed, the events of the day kept replaying in his mind. The way Ino had looked at him, the touch of her hand, the unspoken understanding between them, it was all so new, so overwhelming. He didn't know where things would go from here, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like he could face whatever came next. But deep down, he knew that there was still so much to learn, about himself, about his ice powers, and about what his feelings for Ino truly meant. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Ino by his side, he felt like he could face anything. Chapter 10, The Proposal of Promise. The moon hung high in the sky over the hidden leaf village, casting a pale light over the streets below. Naruto stood by the window of his room, staring out into the night. His thoughts were restless, swirling in a storm of uncertainty and longing. The events of the past few days, the mission, the bond he had shared with Ino, kept replaying in his mind. I can't stop thinking about her, Naruto thought, his heart pounding in his chest. Every time she looks at me, it's like I feel something I've never felt before. I'm not sure what it is, but it's stronger than anything I've ever experienced. He hadn't been able to shake the feeling since that moment in the cafe. The way Ino had reached out to him, the way her touch lingered on his hand, had left an imprint on his heart. It was like a spark had been ignited within him, one that refused to be ignored. The more he thought about it, the more he realized something. This is more than just friendship. I'm falling for her. But there was still so much he didn't understand about his own feelings. He was the Hokage's candidate, the hero of the village, but he had never known what it truly meant to let someone in, especially someone as strong and important to him as Ino. His life had always been about protecting others, carrying the weight of the village on his shoulders. But now, with his growing feelings for Ino, he felt like he was being pulled in a new direction, one he wasn't sure he was ready for. He couldn't stay lost in his thoughts for long. He had to see her again. He needed to talk to her, to figure out where they stood. A quiet moment together. The next morning, Naruto found Ino waiting for him outside the Hokage's office. She was standing by a large oak tree, her arms folded across her chest as she gazed out toward the horizon. Her expression was calm, but there was a softness in her eyes that Naruto hadn't noticed before. She looked different, more radiant, somehow. It made his heart skip a beat. Ino turned toward him as she heard his footsteps. Her lips curled into a smile. "You're late, Naruto. I thought we were going to head out for a training session." Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Sorry about that, Ino. Got a little caught up thinking." Ino's eyes softened with understanding. "About the mission yesterday?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah. I just keep thinking about everything. About the ice powers, about us. I don't really know how to explain it, but I feel like there's something I need to do. Something I need to say." Ino tilted her head, her curiosity piqued. "Something to say, huh? Well, I'm listening." Naruto hesitated for a moment, his chest tightening with nerves. This was it. This was the moment he had been dreading, and yet, in a way, had been yearning for. He looked at Ino, her steady gaze grounding him, and then he took a deep breath. "I know I'm not always the best at expressing myself, but," he paused, trying to find the right words. "Ino, I want you to know that you've been there for me more than anyone else. You've helped me control the ice inside me, and you've always been there when I needed someone to talk to. You're not just my teammate, you're something more than that. And I don't want to take that for granted." Ino's heart fluttered at his words, but she kept her composure, her eyes meeting his without hesitation. "Naruto," her voice was soft but steady. "I've always been there for you, because I believe in you. You don't have to do this alone." Naruto stepped closer, his voice growing more earnest. "But that's just it, Ino. I don't want to face this alone anymore. I don't want to keep hiding what I feel. You've always been by my side, and I want to be by yours, too. I care about you. More than I've ever cared about anyone. And I don't want to pretend that it's just friendship anymore. Ino's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding. She had always known there was something between them, something unspoken, but hearing him say it out loud, hearing him finally admit it, made her heart race. She stepped closer to him, her eyes soft but filled with emotion. Naruto, her voice trailed off as she took a moment to collect herself. I've always felt the same way. Naruto's eyes widened, his heart leaping in his chest. You. Ino smiled, reaching out to gently touch his arm. I've always admired you, Naruto. From the first time we met, to everything you've done for the village. You've grown so much, and I've been with you every step of the way. I don't need to pretend that I don't care anymore. I care about you, too. For a long moment, the two of them stood there, the world around them fading as they simply took in each other's words. The bond between them was undeniable now. The tension that had hung in the air for so long had finally been released, leaving only the warmth of their connection. Naruto smiled, his heart swelling with relief and happiness. So, does this mean, we're... Ino grinned, her eyes teasing. Yeah, Naruto. It means we're something more. A team. And, maybe something else, too. Naruto laughed, the sound light and carefree, as he stepped closer to her. I'm glad to hear that. Ino's smile softened, and she looked up at him with a kind of tenderness that made his heart skip a beat. You don't have to thank me, Naruto. This was always going to happen. We were always going to end up here. The air between them seemed to crackle with energy as they stood in the moment together. Their connection, forged through countless battles, shared challenges, and personal struggles, had finally come to this, a quiet, tender promise. A promise for the future. As the day wore on, Naruto and Ino continued their training together, but there was an unspoken shift between them. The weight of their newfound feelings for each other was still fresh. But the air between them was charged with a sense of excitement and hope. They were no longer just teammates, they were partners, facing the future together. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Naruto and Ino found themselves standing on a quiet hill overlooking the village. The sky was a deep shade of orange and pink, the sun casting a golden glow over the rooftops of Konoha. The air was cool, but the warmth between them was undeniable. Ino stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the horizon. You know, she said, her voice thoughtful, sometimes it's hard to believe how far we've come. From the time we were kids, until now. Naruto smiled, his hand brushing against hers. Yeah. We've both changed a lot, huh? Ino looked at him, her gaze softening. I think the biggest change is that we've learned to trust each other. Completely. Naruto's smile faded for a moment as he turned to her, his voice quiet but full of emotion. Ino, I promise. I'll always trust you. And I'll always fight for you. For us. Ino's heart fluttered at his words, and she turned to face him fully. I know, Naruto. And I'll do the same for you. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. They stood there, hand in hand, as the village below them continued to bustle with life. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. Together, they were ready for whatever challenges the future would bring. Chapter 11, The Storm Within. The days following Naruto and Ino's quiet declaration of their feelings were some of the most peaceful Naruto had known in a long time. It felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, the uncertainty of his emotions giving way to something warmer, steadier. Training was still intense, but now there was an ease to it, a comfort in knowing that Ino was by his side, both as a partner and as someone he could truly trust. But even in the midst of this newfound calm, Naruto couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that lingered in his heart. The ice within him, though more under control than before, still held a dangerous edge. He had come so far, but every time he tapped into that power, he could feel it stirring, a reminder that the struggle was far from over. And it wasn't just the ice that was causing him to worry. It was the sense that something was coming, something darker, something that would test everything they had fought for. An unexpected threat. The calm morning was shattered by a sudden alarm, the sound of bells ringing throughout the village. Naruto and Ino, who had been training on the outskirts of Konoha, immediately stopped, their senses on high alert. "Something's wrong," Ino said, her voice serious as she glanced toward the village. "That's the emergency alarm." Naruto nodded, his pulse quickening. "Let's go. We need to get to the Hokage's office, now." They rushed through the streets of Konoha, weaving through the crowd as they made their way toward the village center. The sense of urgency was palpable, and Naruto's thoughts were filled with concern. What's happening? When they arrived at the Hokage's office, Tsunade was already waiting for them, her face grim as she looked over a map of the village's perimeter. "What's going on?" Naruto asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. "We've detected a foreign presence," Tsunade said, her voice low. "A group of rogue ninjas has infiltrated the village. They're moving fast and seem to be targeting the village's most strategic points." Ino's eyes narrowed. "What kind of ninjas are we dealing with?" "We're not sure yet," Tsunade replied, "but we've picked up traces of cursed chakra. These aren't just ordinary rogue ninjas. They're powerful." Naruto clenched his fists, his heart pounding. "I'll take them down. We can't let them hurt anyone." Tsunade placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him before he could leave. "Naruto, I know you're eager to fight, but I need you to be careful. The ice inside you, if you lose control during this fight, it could cause more harm than good." Naruto met her gaze, determination flashing in his eyes. "I won't lose control. Not with Ino by my side." Ino stood tall next to him, her presence unwavering. "We're in this together. Hokage-sama. We'll handle it." Tsunade nodded, a slight smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "All right. I'm counting on both of you." The battle begins. As Naruto and Ino made their way to the first reported location, the village seemed quieter than usual. The streets were eerily empty, and the tension in the air was thick. Naruto's senses were on high alert, the ice within him stirring slightly in response to the tension. Ino glanced at him, noticing the subtle shift in his demeanor. "You okay?" she asked softly. Naruto nodded, though his expression was strained. "I'm fine. I can feel it. The ice is always there, and it's harder to ignore when something feels off." Ino's gaze softened. "You don't have to hide it, Naruto. I'm here." Naruto gave her a small smile, appreciating her words. "Thanks, Ino. I'll be fine." They turned a corner and found themselves face to face with their first group of enemies. A dozen rogue ninjas stood in the middle of the street, their eyes cold and calculating. Their chakra was heavy with cursed energy, and the air seemed to pulse with the power emanating from them. "Looks like we've got company," one of the rogue ninjas said, his voice mocking. Naruto clenched his fists, the ice inside him rising as he prepared for battle. "You won't get away with this," he growled, his voice filled with determination. Before they could react, the rogue ninjas attacked in a blur of speed. Naruto and Ino were ready, each moving with precision. Ino used her mind transfer jutsu to disorient one of the enemies, while Naruto focused on controlling the ice that surged within him. The battle was fast and fierce, the rogue ninjas using a combination of swift attacks and cursed chakra to overwhelm their opponents. Naruto's ice powers were on full display, his movements quick and calculated as he encased several of the ninjas in ice to neutralize them. But every time he called on the ice, he could feel it, there was a danger in his power, an edge that made him hesitate. It was like the ice had a mind of its own, pushing him toward something darker. Ino's voice cut through his thoughts. Naruto, focus. Don't let it control you. He nodded, forcing the ice to obey his will. I won't let it control me, he repeated silently. I won't. The battle raged on, but Naruto and Ino fought in sync, their teamwork more seamless than ever. Together, they were unstoppable, each covering the other's blind spots, protecting one another with the unspoken bond they had forged over the years. A dangerous encounter. Just as they thought the battle was over, the ground beneath them trembled. A figure appeared from the shadows, a tall, cloaked figure with a chilling presence. His eyes glowed with cursed chakra, and his aura was unlike anything Naruto had ever felt before. Is this all the hidden leaf has to offer? The figure taunted, his voice deep and ominous. You're just children playing at being warriors. Naruto's heart raced as he took a step forward. Who are you? The figure chuckled darkly. I am the one who will put an end to the Uzumaki legacy. Your ice is just a fragment of the power you could wield, and I will be the one to unlock its true potential. Ino stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. We won't let you do that. The figure raised a hand, and the air around them grew colder. A wave of dark chakra surged through the ground, cracking the earth beneath their feet. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as the ice within him flared to life. He could feel it, this dark power was pulling at him, urging him to give in. The rogue ninja's words echoed in his mind, you'll never control it. It will control you. No, Naruto whispered, his voice trembling. I won't let it. But the rogue ninja's chakra continued to press against him, overwhelming his senses. The ice inside him surged, and for a brief moment, he felt like he was losing control. The world around him seemed to freeze, the air thick with tension. Ino's voice broke through the chaos. Naruto, don't fight it. Channel it. Use it. Naruto clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with determination. I am in control. I am not a slave to this power. With a fierce roar, he slammed his hands to the ground, releasing a wave of ice that spread out like a storm, encasing the rogue ninja in a block of solid ice. The dark chakra recoiled, and the figure was rendered immobile. Breathing heavily, Naruto stood tall, his body still trembling from the effort of controlling the ice. Ino was by his side, her eyes filled with pride. You did it, Naruto, she said softly. You controlled it. Naruto nodded, his heart still racing. I did. But I won't stop training until I'm sure I can always control it. A promise made. The rogue ninjas were taken down, and the village was safe once more. As the dust settled and the adrenaline from the battle wore off, Naruto and Ino found themselves standing together once again. The weight of the day's events hung over them, but there was something else in the air, something lighter, something more promising. Ino looked at Naruto, her eyes soft but filled with determination. We make a great team, you know that? Naruto smiled, his heart swelling with warmth. Yeah. And I'll always be by your side, Ino. No matter what. She smiled back, a small, knowing smile that held more than words could say. I know, Naruto. I trust you. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over Konoha, the two of them stood there, side by side, ready for whatever came next. The challenges would continue, but together, they were ready to face them all. Chapter 12, The Frost Within. The village had returned to a semblance of normalcy after the rogue ninja attack. The damage was repaired quickly, the streets restored, and life resumed. Yet, for Naruto, things were far from ordinary. The battle with the rogue ninjas had shown him something he hadn't wanted to confront, the true weight of the power he was learning to control. The ice within him had become stronger, more unpredictable, and each time he used it, he could feel it pushing back against him, threatening to consume him once again. Naruto sat at the edge of the training grounds, his knees drawn up to his chest. He stared out over the village, the cool breeze brushing against his face. The sense of unease that had been following him ever since his battle with the rogue ninja had only grown stronger. His thoughts were scattered, his mind a whirlpool of confusion and doubt. I thought I had control, he thought, clenching his fists. But the more I use this power, the more I feel like it's using me. It's like I'm walking on a razor's edge, waiting to slip. He exhaled sharply, trying to shake off the feeling. I can't let it control me. I promised Ino I wouldn't. The sound of footsteps broke through his thoughts. He looked up to see Ino approaching, her expression a mixture of concern and understanding. She had been watching him for a while now, sensing that something was off. Naruto, she said softly, her voice gentle yet firm. We need to talk. He forced a smile, but it felt hollow. What's up, Ino? Ino stopped in front of him, her eyes narrowing slightly as she studied his expression. She could tell something was wrong, something that Naruto wasn't saying. She sat down beside him, her presence a calming anchor. You've been distant lately, she said, her voice calm but filled with concern. Ever since the battle with the rogue ninjas, I've noticed that you've been holding back. You're not telling me everything, and I can see it's eating you up inside. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair. I can't keep hiding this from her. She deserves to know. It's the ice, he said finally, his voice heavy with frustration. Every time I use it, it gets harder to control. I feel like I'm on the edge of losing it. I thought I had it under control, but the more I tap into it, the stronger it becomes, and the darker it feels. Ino's expression softened as she placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm and reassuring. Naruto, I know it's not easy. But you're not alone in this. I'm here, every step of the way. We'll figure it out together. Naruto looked at her, his eyes filled with doubt. I don't know, Ino. What if I can't control it? What if it takes over? I've seen what it can do, and I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to become the monster that I've always feared. Ino's heart ached as she listened to him. She had seen Naruto struggle with so much already, but this power, this burden, was different. She could feel the weight of it pressing down on him, the fear that had taken root in his heart. You're not a monster, Naruto, she said firmly. You're the person who's saved this village more times than I can count. You've always been someone who fights for others. The ice may be a part of you, but it doesn't define you. What defines you is your heart. Naruto looked at her, the words sinking in slowly. But, what if I can't control it when it matters most? What if I hurt you, or someone else? Ino's eyes softened as she took his hand, squeezing it gently. You won't hurt anyone, Naruto. You're stronger than that. And even if you stumble, I'll be right there beside you, helping you stand back up. For a long moment, they sat there in silence, the weight of their unspoken bond filling the space between them. The wind rustled the leaves in the trees, and the distant sounds of the village carried on the breeze. Naruto turned to her, his voice quieter now. I'm scared, Ino. Not of the ice, but of what it might do to me. What if it's already changing me in ways I can't control? Ino placed her other hand over his, her grip firm and steady. Then we'll face it together. We'll figure out how to control it, how to keep it from consuming you. But you have to promise me one thing. Naruto looked at her, his expression serious. What's that? You have to promise me that you won't face this alone, Ino said, her voice soft but filled with unwavering conviction. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. I'll always be here, no matter what happens. Naruto's heart swelled with emotion at her words. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he wasn't alone. I'm not alone in this, he thought. I have Ino. And I'm not going to let this power tear me apart. I promise, he said quietly, his voice full of determination. Ino smiled, her eyes warm. Good. Because we're in this together. The storm within grows. The next few days passed in a blur of training and preparation. Naruto and Ino worked together to strengthen their bond, both as teammates and as individuals facing their own challenges. But despite their best efforts, the storm within Naruto continued to grow. The ice that had once been a tool, something he could wield, had become a constant companion, a dark force that seemed to pull at him whenever he least expected it. The feeling of cold dread was always just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to break free. During their training, Naruto would find himself tapping into the ice, but each time, it was harder to control. The ice would freeze the ground beneath him, spreading out like an uncontrollable wave, his emotions surging with it. Ino was always there, reminding him to focus, to breathe, to stay grounded. But it was becoming clear that the ice was more than just a power, it was a part of him, a part he wasn't sure he could control forever. One evening, as they sat together overlooking the village from the training grounds, Ino turned to Naruto, her expression thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if you didn't have this power?" she asked softly. "If you didn't have the ice, the nine tails, if you were just Naruto?" Naruto was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the village below. "I've never really thought about it," he realized. "I've always been defined by what I can do for others, by the battles I've fought, but who am I without all of that?" "I don't know," he said finally, his voice quiet. "I don't know who I'd be without the ice. Or the nine tails. I've always had to fight. It's all I've ever known." Ino's voice was gentle but firm as she spoke. "You don't have to fight all the time, Naruto. You don't have to define yourself by what you can do for others. You can define yourself by who you are. And who you are is someone who's always there for those he cares about. You're more than your powers. You're Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto turned to her, his heart full of gratitude. "Thanks, Ino. You always know what to say." She smiled at him, her eyes soft. "I just want you to remember. You don't have to do this alone. Not anymore." Naruto smiled back, the weight in his chest lightening just a little. The battle was far from over. The storm inside him was still raging, but with Ino by his side, he felt like he could face whatever came next. Chapter 13, The Shadow of Ice. The days following their conversation about Naruto's ice powers felt like a fragile calm, the weight of uncertainty still lingering in the air. Naruto had promised Ino that he would stay grounded, that he wouldn't let his powers take control. But every time he trained, every time he tapped into the ice, he could feel it, the temptation to let go, to let the ice consume him completely. Despite his struggles, he had made progress. The ice was no longer something he feared, but something he respected. He was learning to channel it, to use it without allowing it to overtake him. Still, there were moments, quiet, fleeting moments, when he feared that it was just a matter of time before he lost himself again. And then there was Ino. Her unwavering support, her steady presence, had been his anchor, and he couldn't deny the growing feelings he had for her. It wasn't just the bond of teammates anymore. There was something deeper, something that connected them in a way that he couldn't put into words. They spent every moment they could together, training and talking. But lately, their missions had become more dangerous. The village, while still recovering from the rogue ninja attack, was not out of danger. New threats were emerging, and with them came more challenges for Naruto and Ino. A new threat. The tension in the air was palpable as Naruto and Ino stood in the Hokage's office, listening to Tsunade explain the latest development. "Reports from the border patrol indicate strange activity in the north," Tsunade said, her voice grave. "It looks like a new faction has begun to gather there, rogue shinobi, perhaps, or something else entirely. They're armed, and we've seen evidence of dark chakra being used." Naruto's fists clenched. "Another group trying to disrupt the peace? We can't let them threaten the village again." Ino's brow furrowed as she examined the map of the region. What do we know about them? They're highly organized, Tsunade replied, her voice laced with concern. And they seem to be drawn to something, or someone, deep in the northern mountains. We're not sure what yet, but it's something dangerous. Naruto stood tall, determination in his eyes. We'll take care of it. We can't let them get any closer to the village. Ino nodded, her expression resolute. We'll get to the bottom of this. Tsunade's gaze lingered on them both for a moment before she spoke again. Be careful, both of you. We don't know what we're dealing with, but I have a feeling this won't be an easy mission. Stay alert. Naruto and Ino exchanged a glance, the unspoken bond between them clear. We will, Naruto said, his voice steady. The journey north. The journey to the northern mountains was long and difficult, the terrain treacherous and the air growing colder as they ascended. The further they traveled, the more Naruto could feel the ice inside him stirring, reacting to the chill in the air. It wasn't a feeling he could easily ignore. Ino noticed it too. Naruto, she said softly, her voice a mixture of concern and understanding. You're tense. Naruto nodded, his eyes focused ahead. I can feel it. The ice, it's stronger in the cold. I'm trying to keep it in check, but every step we take seems to make it worse. Ino placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. I'm here, Naruto. You don't have to face this alone. His heart swelled at her words, and for a moment, the fear that had been gnawing at him seemed to ease. With her by my side, I can do this, he thought. I can't let the ice control me. Not now. They continued their journey, the mountains looming ahead, the sense of unease growing with each step. The air grew colder, the winds biting at their faces, but they pressed on. Every instinct Naruto had told him they were getting closer to something, a presence that felt both familiar and dangerous. The shadow unveiled. As they neared the peak of the mountain, the ground beneath them began to shake. The air turned icy cold, and the winds howled with a power that seemed unnatural. Ino's senses flared as she looked around, her eyes narrowing. There's something here, she said, her voice tight with tension. Naruto could feel it too. The ice within him was no longer just a passive presence, it was growing stronger, its power urging him forward. He clenched his fists, trying to control it, but the pull was undeniable. It's like it wants me to embrace it, he thought, his heart racing. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them, stepping out from the shadows of the mountain. The figure was cloaked in black, their face hidden beneath a hood, but the dark chakra radiating from them was unmistakable. You've come, the figure said, their voice low and cold. Just as I expected. Naruto stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Who are you? The figure smiled, though there was no warmth in the gesture. I am the one who has been waiting for you, Uzumaki. The one who will bring the ice to its true potential. Ino's eyes flickered with suspicion. What do you want with him? The figure's eyes gleamed with dark amusement. The ice inside him is more than just a tool. It is a force that can reshape everything. I will unlock its power, and with it, we will bring about a new age. Naruto's blood ran cold at the figure's words. You're insane. I won't let you use my power for that. The figure chuckled. You don't have a choice. The ice will always be a part of you, Uzumaki. And soon, you will see that it is your true calling. Before Naruto could react, the figure's chakra surged, and the ground around them cracked open. The ice inside Naruto flared to life, responding to the dark chakra with an intensity he hadn't expected. His body trembled as the ice surged through him, a wave of cold that threatened to overwhelm his senses. No! Naruto shouted, struggling to maintain control. The ice within him raged, pulling him closer to the figure, to the darkness that promised power. Ino's voice cut through the chaos. Naruto, don't give in. You are stronger than this. With her words, something inside Naruto clicked. The warmth of her presence, the trust they shared, broke through the cold. He focused on that feeling, the connection between them, and forced the ice to obey his will. Slowly, the surge of power began to recede, the cold retreating back into him. I won't let you win, Naruto said, his voice steady with resolve. The figure's smile faltered for a moment, but they quickly regained their composure. You may have won this battle, Uzumaki, but the war is far from over. The ice will find its master. As the figure vanished into the shadows, Naruto stood tall, his chest heaving with exertion. The ice inside him was still there, but it was under his control, for now. Ino stepped beside him, her eyes full of concern but also pride. You did it, Naruto. You stayed in control. Naruto smiled, though the weight of the battle still lingered in his chest. Thanks, Ino. I couldn't have done it without you. Ino squeezed his shoulder, her voice soft. We'll face whatever comes next, together. Chapter 14, The Heart of the Storm. The northern mountains had been a testing ground for Naruto's control over his ice powers, but the storm was far from over. The rogue ninja who had attacked them seemed to be part of a much larger scheme, one that threatened the stability of the entire region. The ice inside Naruto was still a force he could feel, powerful and unpredictable, but with Ino by his side, he knew he could keep it under control. They had returned to Konoha briefly, only to regroup. Tsunade had sent them back out on a mission that would require every ounce of strength they had. Naruto knew that he couldn't afford to falter now. The battle ahead wasn't just about physical strength, it was about control, about not letting the ice inside him dictate his actions. As Naruto and Ino prepared to leave again, they were summoned to the Hokage's office for a briefing. Tsunade was already there, along with a few familiar faces, Sakura, Sai, and even Lee, who had been briefed about the new threat and was eager to join the mission. We don't have much time, Tsunade said, her voice as firm as ever. The rogue ninjas you encountered were just a diversion. We've learned that they've linked up with an even more dangerous faction, one that has been operating in the shadows for a long time. Naruto's heart raced at her words. A bigger threat? He clenched his fists. What do we need to do, Hokage-sama? Tsunade looked at him, her gaze sharp. We need you and your team to infiltrate their stronghold. We've gathered intel on their location, but it won't be easy. They're heavily fortified, and we suspect that they've been using forbidden jutsu, ones that could potentially destabilize the entire region. Ino stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with resolve. We'll take care of it. We're ready. Tsunade nodded, her gaze shifting to Naruto. Naruto, you've come a long way with controlling the ice. But you need to be careful. If this enemy is as dangerous as we suspect, your powers will be pushed to their limits. Don't let the ice take over. You're stronger than that. Naruto met her gaze with determination. I won't let it control me. I promise. Ino placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We're in this together, Naruto. Tsunade gave a brief nod of approval. Good. Take Lee, Sai, and Sakura with you. They'll back you up. And remember, this is a stealth mission. Take them down before they can escalate their plans. Naruto, Ino, and the rest of their team left the Hokage's office, the weight of their task hanging heavily on their shoulders. As they made their way out of the village, Naruto couldn't help but feel the burden of what lay ahead. The ice inside him felt heavier than ever, its presence like a constant pull, a whisper urging him to give in. Ino was by his side, as always, her presence a source of strength. She didn't say anything, but the way she looked at him, steadfast and unwavering, gave him the strength to keep going. I can't let this power consume me, he thought. I have to stay in control. For Ino. For the village. The stronghold. They arrived at the location given to them by Tsunade, a large, imposing fortress hidden deep in the mountains. The entrance was heavily guarded, and the air around it felt colder than the rest of the mountain range. It was as if the very place was steeped in dark chakra. Naruto could feel it, the ice inside him reacting to the cold, the power that pulsed through the air. "We'll have to move quickly," Sakura whispered, her eyes scanning the area for any signs of movement. "If we get caught, we'll be at a disadvantage." Naruto nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "We'll stick to the plan. We get in, neutralize the threat, and get out. No one gets hurt." Ino's eyes met his. "Remember, Naruto, you have control. Don't let the ice pull you in." He nodded again, though the unease still lingered in his chest. They made their way to the fortress under the cover of darkness, each of them moving with the precision that came from years of training together. As they reached the entrance, Lee took point, using his speed to scout ahead. He quickly disabled a few traps set by the enemy, ensuring their path remained clear. "Clear ahead," Lee called back, his voice low. Naruto gave him a thumbs up. "Let's move." As they entered the fortress, the temperature seemed to drop even further. The walls were adorned with strange symbols, and the air felt thick with dark energy. Naruto's ice powers stirred in response, a reminder of just how dangerous this place was. They encountered little resistance at first, but as they made their way deeper into the stronghold, they found themselves face to face with the leader of the rogue faction. The man stood tall, cloaked in black, his eyes glowing with dark chakra. "You've come far, Naruto Uzumaki," the man said, his voice deep and unsettling. "But this is where your journey ends." Naruto clenched his fists, the ice within him responding to the man's presence. He could feel it stirring, the dark chakra pressing against him like a weight. "I won't let it control me. I won't." The rogue leader smiled, sensing Naruto's struggle. "You've always been afraid of your power, haven't you? You fear what you could become." Naruto gritted his teeth, his voice steady. "I'm not afraid. I control my own fate." The rogue raised his hand, and dark energy surged toward Naruto. Before he could react, Ino stepped forward, using her mind transfer jutsu to immobilize the rogue's body, giving Naruto the opening he needed. Naruto thrust his hands forward, channeling the ice with precision, creating a massive wall of ice that blocked the rogue's attacks. "You don't control me," he shouted, his voice filled with unwavering resolve. The ice surged outward, encasing the rogue's dark chakra in a cage of pure frost. The energy began to dissipate as the rogue struggled within the ice prison. Sakura, Lee, and Sai moved in to secure the area while Ino maintained her hold on the rogue leader. The fortress, once filled with the heavy presence of dark chakra, began to feel lighter, the tension in the air dissipating. A moment of clarity. As the battle ended and the rogue faction was taken down, Naruto stood among his teammates, the weight of the fight still heavy on his shoulders. The ice within him still pulsed, but it was no longer a force that threatened to consume him. He had held it back, kept it under control. Ino stood beside him, her eyes filled with pride. "You did it, Naruto. You stayed in control." Naruto exhaled slowly, the tension in his body easing. "Yeah. I couldn't have done it without you." Ino smiled, her gaze softening. "We make a good team." Naruto's heart swelled at her words. It was true. Together, they had faced countless challenges, and each time, they had grown stronger. But it wasn't just about their strength, it was about their bond, the connection they shared. The ice inside Naruto was a part of him, but it no longer controlled him. And with Ino by his side, he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't have to face them alone. Chapter 15, The Thaw Begins. The snow in the northern mountains had melted by the time Naruto and Ino returned to Konoha, but the chill in the air still lingered in their hearts. Despite the victory over the rogue faction, something felt off, an undercurrent of unease that both of them couldn't shake. The battle had been fierce, and while they had come out on top, the dark energy they had encountered still haunted Naruto. The ice inside him was still there, a constant reminder of the battle that raged within. Every day, he struggled to keep it under control, but the fear of losing himself to it remained. As Naruto walked through the village, he felt a sense of relief that it was safe once more. The familiar streets, the bustling marketplace, and the warmth of the village provided a stark contrast to the cold of the mountains. But despite the outward calm, Naruto couldn't ignore the storm brewing within him. The ice was always there, waiting for the right moment to surface. Ino, walking beside him, sensed his unease. She had noticed the subtle tension in his movements, the way his shoulders were slightly hunched as though he were carrying a heavy burden. She had seen him face countless challenges before, but this was different. This wasn't just about physical strength, it was about something deeper, a part of him that he wasn't sure he could control. "You're quiet," Ino said, her voice soft as they walked. "Is everything all right?" Naruto glanced at her, his gaze softening. "I'm fine," he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. Ino knew better than to press him, but she couldn't ignore the worry that gnawed at her. Naruto had always been the one to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, but lately, it felt like that weight was becoming too much. She had seen the toll the ice was taking on him, the way he fought so hard to keep it under control, as though every moment of peace was a fleeting illusion. "If you ever need to talk, you know I'm here, right?" Ino said, her voice quiet but filled with sincerity. "You don't have to keep this to yourself." Naruto smiled, a small, bittersweet smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I know, Ino. I appreciate it. I really do." The moment was interrupted by a sudden flash of light in the sky. The village bells rang, signaling an alert. "What's going on now?" Naruto muttered, his hand instinctively moving to his side as he prepared for whatever was coming next. Before Ino could respond, a voice called out from behind them. "Naruto! Ino!" They turned to see Lee running toward them, his usual bright smile replaced by a look of urgency. "We've got a problem. There's been a breach in the village's outer defenses." Naruto's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of breach?" "We don't know yet," Lee said, his voice tense. "But it's bad. We need to move, now." Without another word, Naruto and Ino followed Lee as they rushed to the village's perimeter. The streets were quickly filling with villagers and shinobi, all in a state of alert. Naruto's stomach twisted with unease. After everything they had been through, was the peace they had fought for already slipping away? They reached the outer gates, where Tsunade and the rest of the elite shinobi were already preparing for what was to come. The air was thick with the tension of a new battle brewing. "There's something strange about this attack," Tsunade said, her voice steady but laced with concern. "We don't know who's behind it yet, but the chakra signatures we've detected are unlike anything we've seen before." Naruto stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Whoever they are, we'll stop them. We're ready for whatever comes next." Ino placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "We'll face this together, Naruto. You're not alone." Naruto nodded, feeling the familiar warmth of her presence. With her by his side, he knew they could overcome anything. The hidden threat. The battle began almost immediately. A massive explosion rang out at the village's western gate, sending debris flying in every direction. Naruto and Ino, along with Lee, Sakura, and the other shinobi, rushed into the fray. The enemy, masked and cloaked in dark robes, was relentless, attacking with a combination of jutsu that seemed to manipulate the very elements around them. Naruto felt the ice inside him stir again, the power calling to him like a distant whisper. He had learned to control it, but the fear of losing himself remained. "I can't let it take over," he thought, his hands crackling with energy as he focused on his chakra. Ino moved fluidly beside him, her mind honed on the battlefield. She was in her element, directing the team with precision, her sensory abilities picking up on every movement, every shift in the enemy's strategy. Her confidence and calmness were the perfect counterbalance to Naruto's inner turmoil. Naruto focused on the fight, using his ice release with greater precision than before. His ice constructs were sharp and deadly, but he knew better than to let his emotions dictate his actions. The battle was fierce, the enemy overwhelming, but Naruto was determined to keep his ice under control. But then, in the chaos of the battle, something shifted. A sudden surge of chakra, dark and familiar, crashed into him like a tidal wave. He stumbled, his vision blurring as the ice within him surged uncontrollably. "No!" Naruto shouted, his body freezing as the ice spread rapidly, expanding from his hands, threatening to overtake him. Ino, who had been fighting nearby, saw the shift in Naruto instantly. She turned toward him, her eyes wide with alarm. "Naruto!" Before she could reach him, the dark chakra, the one he had felt before, burst forward from the enemy, a massive figure cloaked in black emerging from the shadows. It was the rogue leader, the one who had tried to manipulate Naruto's ice in the past. "Did you really think you could control it?" the rogue leader sneered, his eyes glowing with dark energy. "The ice inside you is mine to command." Naruto's breath came in shallow gasps as the ice around him continued to spread, covering the ground in a thick layer. But then, through the darkness, he heard a voice that cut through the chaos. "Naruto! Focus on me." It was Ino. Naruto turned toward her, and in that moment, he felt something shift. The ice inside him began to slow, its power retreating in the face of Ino's voice. He reached out with his mind, drawing on the bond they shared. He felt her presence, her strength, her unwavering trust in him. "I won't let it take over," Naruto whispered to himself. The rogue leader's grin faltered as he saw the change in Naruto. "You think you can control it?" he scoffed. Naruto's gaze hardened. "I don't think I can control it. I know I can." With that, he thrust his hands forward, directing the ice around him with unshakable resolve. The rogue leader raised a hand to block, but the ice was faster, encasing him in a solid prison. Naruto exhaled, his body trembling from the effort, but his control over the ice was absolute. He had done it. Ino rushed to his side, her hand finding his once more. "You did it, Naruto. You stayed in control." Naruto looked at her, his heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you." Ino smiled, her eyes soft with relief. "We're in this together, always." A promise fulfilled. The battle ended shortly after, the rogue faction defeated and their plans thwarted. The village was safe again, but the events of the day weighed heavily on Naruto. The ice had tested him once more, and though he had won this time, he knew the struggle was far from over. As the sun began to set over Konoha, Naruto stood on the balcony of the Hokage's office, looking out over the village. Ino joined him, standing by his side as they watched the peaceful sky. "You know," Naruto said quietly, "every time I think I have control over the ice, I'm afraid of what might happen next." Ino looked at him, her expression serious. "I know. But you've already shown that you can handle it. You just need to trust yourself." Naruto smiled at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I'll trust myself, Ino. As long as I have you by my side." Ino smiled back, her hand finding his. "Always." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the bond between them was unbreakable. Together, they knew they could face whatever came next. Chapter 16, The Coldest Hour. The air in Konoha had taken on an unnatural chill in the days following the rogue faction's defeat. While the village seemed peaceful on the surface, a sense of tension loomed over the hidden leaf. Naruto's ice powers had been tested time and time again, but the more he used them, the more he felt the weight of their potential consequences. He had come so far, but the fear still lingered, the fear that one day, he wouldn't be able to control it. But it wasn't just the ice he feared. It was the price of power. An uneasy peace. Naruto sat in the Hokage's office, staring out the window at the quiet streets below. He had been asked to stay behind after the morning briefing, his mind heavy with unspoken concerns. Ino had stayed with him as always, but even she seemed to sense the growing unease that clouded his thoughts. Tsunade's voice broke through his thoughts. Naruto, Ino. We've received new intel. Naruto turned to face her, his gaze sharp despite the lingering fatigue in his bones. New intel? About the rogue faction? Tsunade shook her head, her expression grave. It's not the faction. We've received word that a new enemy is moving through the land of fire. They're organized, well-funded, and they've been targeting villages near the border. Ino frowned, stepping closer to Tsunade's desk. What are they after? We're not entirely sure, Tsunade replied, her voice tight. But we believe they have a leader, a shinobi with powerful jutsu and connections to dark forces. We've also learned that they've been searching for something powerful. Naruto's heart sank. He knew what it meant for something to be powerful in the wrong hands. What is it? What are they after? Tsunade's gaze darkened. We believe they're after the source of cursed chakra. If that's true, we could be facing something far more dangerous than we've encountered. Naruto clenched his fists. I won't let that happen. I'll stop them. Ino turned toward him, her expression serious but supportive. We'll stop them. Together. Tsunade looked at them both, nodding. I'm counting on you. Prepare for a journey to the border of the land of fire. There's no time to waste. Naruto and Ino exchanged a glance, their determination shared without words. It was a new mission, one that would require everything they had. Together, they would face the growing storm. The path ahead. The journey to the border was long and uneventful, the landscape stretching on endlessly as they made their way through forests and mountains. Naruto's mind continued to race, his thoughts consumed with the potential danger that awaited them. The darkness that seemed to follow them was not just from their enemies, it was from the ice inside him. He could feel it, stirring quietly but unmistakably. Ino had noticed it too. She kept her gaze on him from time to time, her concern masked beneath the calm exterior she always wore. Naruto, talk to me. What's going on in your head? Naruto shook his head, trying to focus on the mission ahead. I'm fine, Ino. Just thinking about what we're walking into. Ino slowed her pace and stopped, turning to face him. I know you're worried. But you're not alone in this. You've been carrying all this on your shoulders for so long, and I know it's not easy. But remember, Naruto, I'm here. You don't have to carry it all by yourself. Her words pierced through the fog in his mind, and he finally stopped walking, turning to face her. I don't want to drag you into this, he admitted, his voice low. The ice, it's a part of me, but sometimes I feel like it's a curse. Like I'm just waiting for it to take over. Ino's eyes softened with understanding. She stepped closer to him, her voice gentle but firm. We've both been through a lot, Naruto. I've seen you struggle. But you're not cursed. You're stronger than that. The ice isn't who you are. It's just a part of you. And you have the strength to control it. Naruto met her gaze, the weight of his doubts lifting just a little in her presence. I don't know what I'd do without you, Ino. Ino smiled, a soft, reassuring smile. You'll never have to find out, Naruto. We're in this together. Always. The tension in his chest eased at her words. He wasn't alone in this. And with Ino by his side, he could face whatever darkness lay ahead. The enemy revealed. They arrived at the border of the land of fire just before nightfall, the village that had been attacked now a smoldering ruin. The enemy had already made their mark, and it was clear that this was only the beginning. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, the darkness of their enemies looming over the village like a shadow. Naruto and Ino, along with their team, moved swiftly through the destroyed village, looking for any signs of the enemy. The streets were eerily quiet, and the stillness only added to the tension in the air. "I don't like this," Lee muttered, his muscles tense as he scanned the surroundings. "Where are they?" Before anyone could respond, a shadow moved from the corner of the street, and the rogue shinobi appeared, masked and cloaked, their presence powerful and cold. The figure was flanked by two other shinobi, their eyes glowing with dark chakra. "I've been waiting for you, Naruto Uzumaki," the rogue said, their voice low and full of malice. "You think you can stop us? You're nothing but a tool to be used. The ice inside you, it will be mine." Naruto's heart raced, the ice within him reacting to the threat. The rogue's words were like a cold whisper in his mind, urging the ice to rise. But this time, he was ready. He focused, channeling his chakra, willing the ice to obey his will. "I'm not your puppet," Naruto said, his voice steady. "And I'm not afraid of the ice anymore. I control it. Not you." Ino moved beside him, her eyes sharp and focused. "We're not here to play games. You've hurt enough people. It's time to end this." The rogue laughed, the sound chilling. "You think you've won? The true power of the ice is about to be revealed. You cannot stop what has already begun." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and the sky above seemed to darken, as if the world itself were responding to the rogue's chakra. The battle had only just begun, and Naruto could feel the ice inside him stirring again, more violently than before. He could hear the rogue's voice in his head, trying to provoke the ice to rise. But this time, Naruto focused. Drawing on the strength of his bond with Ino. He couldn't afford to lose control now. With a deep breath, he steadied himself, the ice calmed, and the rogue's influence began to fade. "We'll stop you," Naruto said, his voice resolute. "You won't use me as your weapon." The final confrontation. The battle was fierce, the rogue shinobi using dark chakra and forbidden jutsu that tested Naruto's control. But with each passing moment, Naruto's resolve grew stronger. Ino, ever by his side, helped him keep his focus, her presence a steady reminder that he wasn't alone in this. The rogue shinobi, realizing that they couldn't break Naruto's will, finally made their move. But Naruto's ice powers, calm and controlled, were more than a match for them. With one final strike, he encased the rogue in a thick layer of ice, the cold sealing their fate. Breathing heavily, Naruto turned to Ino, his chest still heaving with adrenaline. "We did it," he said, the weight of the battle finally lifting from his shoulders. Ino smiled at him, pride shining in her eyes. Together. Chapter 17, A Storm of Ice and Fire. The aftermath of the battle at the northern border left the Hidden Leaf village in a state of unease. The rogue faction had been defeated, but Naruto and Ino knew the truth: this victory was only temporary. The sense of tension that had been building for weeks still hung in the air, thick with the weight of something even darker on the horizon. Naruto stood at the village's outer gates, staring out into the distance. The events of the past few days replayed in his mind, his ice powers having been pushed to their limits again. He had been able to keep control, barely, but he knew deep down that he couldn't keep relying on his strength alone. The ice inside him had grown stronger, and with it, the fear of losing control continued to creep into his thoughts. Ino had noticed his growing distance. She had seen it in his eyes, felt it in the air around him. He was struggling, more than he was willing to admit. She had always known Naruto to be strong, but this power inside him, the ice that pulsed through his veins, was starting to take a toll on him. She couldn't stand to see him suffer, even if he tried to hide it. She approached him, her footsteps soft but purposeful. "Naruto." He turned to her, forcing a smile. "Hey, Ino. What's up?" Ino studied him carefully, her eyes softening with concern. "You've been quiet lately. I can feel it, Naruto. There's something you're not telling me." Naruto hesitated, his gaze flickering away from her for a moment before he finally met her eyes. "It's nothing," he said, though there was an undeniable sadness in his voice. "Just thinking about everything. About the ice. I feel like I'm always one step away from losing control." Ino's heart ached at his words. She knew what he was going through, the fear of being consumed by something so powerful, something so dangerous. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm, grounding him in the moment. "You're not alone in this, Naruto," she said quietly. "I'm here. We're in this together." Naruto looked down at her hand, a wave of warmth washing over him. He didn't know what he would do without her. The thought of her by his side, of the bond they shared, was the one thing that kept him grounded in this storm. "I don't want to drag you into this," he admitted softly. "You've done so much for me already. But the ice, it feels like it's getting harder to control. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to lose myself." Ino's voice was steady, her words full of resolve. "You won't lose yourself, Naruto. Not as long as we're together. I won't let that happen." Naruto smiled at her, feeling a flicker of hope rise in his chest. "Thanks, Ino. I'll try not to let it take over." A new threat emerges. Just as they were about to leave the gates, a loud crash echoed through the village, followed by a series of explosions that rocked the earth beneath their feet. Instantly, Naruto and Ino were on high alert, their senses sharpening as the village's alarm bells rang. The village was under attack, again. "Move out!" Naruto shouted to the team that had gathered around them. Lee, Sakura, and Sai were already in position, preparing for another battle. "What's going on?" Ino asked, her eyes scanning the horizon, searching for any sign of the enemy. "We don't know yet," Sakura replied, her voice tense. "But it's bad. The chakra signatures we're detecting are unlike anything we've faced before." Naruto's heart raced as the realization hit him. This enemy isn't like the others. They're stronger. The air was thick with dark energy as they made their way toward the source of the explosions. As they rounded the corner, they were met with a scene unlike any they had seen before. A group of shinobi, their bodies cloaked in dark chakra, stood in the center of the village square. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure with silver hair and glowing red eyes, turned to face them as they approached. His gaze was cold and calculating, his presence like a dark cloud that suffocated the air around them. "You've come to play, Uzumaki," the leader said, his voice smooth and almost mocking. "I've been waiting for you." Naruto's blood ran cold as he stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Who are you?" The leader smiled, his eyes gleaming with malice. "I am the one who will bring the ice to its true potential. You've been using it all wrong, Naruto. It's time for you to embrace its true power." Naruto's pulse quickened as the ice inside him began to stir. He could feel it, the cold spreading through his body, urging him to act. "Not now. I can't lose control. I won't let you use my power," Naruto said, his voice steady despite the unease that crept into his chest. The leader's grin widened. "You think you have control over the ice? I will show you what it truly means to wield it." With a flick of his wrist, the leader unleashed a surge of dark chakra that sent a shockwave through the square. The ground cracked, and the air grew colder, the ice around Naruto beginning to rise uncontrollably. He fought against it, trying to keep it in check, but the pressure was immense. Ino's voice cut through the chaos. "Naruto. Focus. You can do this." Naruto closed his eyes, drawing on the bond they shared. He could feel Ino's presence, her confidence, her unwavering support. It was the one thing that had always steadied him in moments like this. With a deep breath, Naruto steadied his mind and pushed the ice back. I won't let it control me, he muttered to himself. The leader narrowed his eyes, clearly frustrated. You're a fool. The ice is your power. You can't fight it. Naruto's eyes flashed with determination. No. I won't let it be my enemy. It's a part of me, but it doesn't define me. With that, he thrust his hands forward, releasing a wave of ice that surged toward the leader. The rogue shinobi dodged, but Naruto's control was flawless. The ice obeyed his will, encasing the enemy's limbs in a block of solid frost. The leader struggled, but the ice held fast, trapping him in place. You're stronger than I thought, the leader muttered, his voice laced with frustration. But this isn't over. Naruto stood tall, his body still trembling from the effort of maintaining control. He turned to Ino, who was already by his side, her eyes filled with pride. You did it, Naruto, Ino said softly, her hand finding his. You stayed in control. Naruto smiled at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. I couldn't have done it without you. The calm after the storm. The battle was over, the rogue shinobi defeated and their plans foiled. But as Naruto and Ino stood in the aftermath, the weight of the fight still hung in the air. The village was safe, but Naruto knew that this was just the beginning. The rogue leader's words echoed in his mind, the ice is your power. You can't fight it. As the sun set over the village, Naruto and Ino stood together, the quiet hum of the village below them. Naruto turned to Ino, his voice low but filled with sincerity. Thanks, Ino. I don't think I could have done this without you. Ino smiled at him, her eyes soft. You don't have to thank me, Naruto. We're in this together. Naruto smiled back, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. Yeah. Together. Chapter 18, Shattered Bonds. The village of Konoha was quiet again. The most recent battle with the rogue faction had been won, but the sense of unease that followed them from the northern mountains still lingered in the air. Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this peace was temporary, that something darker was still brewing. As he stood on the roof of the Hokage's office, staring out at the village, he could feel the weight of what was to come. In his mind, the ice inside him was a constant presence, a reminder of the power he wielded, and how fragile his control over it was. Each time he used the ice, he feared it would be the last time he could stop it from taking over. But this time, the cold inside him was not the only threat. He could sense a darker presence looming just beyond the horizon, something far worse than any rogue faction. It was the feeling of something coming, like the calm before the storm. Ino's voice broke his thoughts, warm and steady, as she stepped up beside him. You've been quiet lately. Naruto turned to her, offering a small smile. Just thinking about everything. The battle's over, but I feel like something's not right. I can't shake this feeling. Ino studied him carefully, concern in her eyes. She could feel the tension in his shoulders, the unspoken fear that still clung to him. He hadn't been himself lately, too distant, too focused on the darkness inside him. She hated seeing him like this, and even though he never said it, she knew the ice was weighing on him. We'll figure it out, she said, her voice soft but resolute. You're not alone in this, Naruto. You never have been. He nodded, his heart lightening slightly at her words. I know, Ino. I'm lucky to have you. Ino gave him a small smile, her eyes warm with affection. We've been through a lot together. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you. Naruto felt a deep sense of gratitude flood through him. I don't deserve someone like her, he thought, his chest tightening with emotion. But before he could speak, a voice from below interrupted their moment. Hey, Naruto, Ino, come quick. It was Lee, panting as he ran up to them. Behind him, Sai and Sakura appeared, their faces grim. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. What now? What happened? Naruto asked, already sensing the urgency in their eyes. "There's been an attack," Sakura said, her voice tense. "It's not like the others. Something feels off about this one." Lee nodded. "We need to move fast. The enemy's closing in on Konoha, and we're not sure who or what we're up against." Naruto's stomach twisted. "Let's go." The heart of the storm. The streets of Konoha were already on high alert as the team moved quickly toward the village's outer perimeter. The air was thick with tension, and Naruto could feel it deep in his bones. This wasn't just another rogue group, there was something more dangerous on the horizon. They reached the village gate to find a dozen shinobi, all cloaked in dark robes, their faces obscured by hoods. The air around them pulsed with dark chakra, and the ground around their feet seemed to crack and freeze, as if the very earth was responding to their presence. Naruto's heart sank. This isn't like anything we've faced before. The leader of the rogue shinobi stepped forward, his eyes glowing a deep crimson. His chakra surged with an intensity Naruto had never felt before, and his presence sent a chill through the air. "You finally arrived, Naruto Uzumaki," the rogue leader said, his voice deep and mocking. "You're the one I've been waiting for." Naruto stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Who are you? What do you want?" The rogue leader grinned. "You don't recognize me? How disappointing. But that's not important. What matters is that you're the key to my plan, Uzumaki. The ice inside you is the catalyst for everything I need. You will be the vessel for my power." Naruto's chest tightened. What is he talking about? "I won't be anyone's vessel," Naruto growled. "If you're here to fight, then fight. But I won't let you control me." The rogue leader laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "You think you can stop me? You're nothing but a tool for the ice, Uzumaki. And soon, you will see that your power is mine to command." Without warning, the leader raised his hand, unleashing a massive wave of dark chakra that struck the ground in front of them, creating a massive rift in the earth. The ground cracked and split, and the temperature plummeted, the ice inside Naruto reacting to the surge of dark chakra. "No." Naruto thought, his pulse racing. "Not now. Not again." The ice inside him surged, uncontrollably, filling his body with a blinding cold. It was as though the rogue's dark chakra was calling to it, feeding off it, pushing Naruto to the brink of losing control. His hands shook, his vision blurred, and the coldness threatened to consume him. Ino's voice cut through the chaos. "Naruto. Focus. You can control it." Naruto clenched his fists, trying to resist the overwhelming surge of ice that flooded through him. "I won't let it take over," he thought, gritting his teeth. "I won't let him win." With a shout, he forced the ice back, pushing it down into his core. The rogue leader watched, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You're strong, Uzumaki. But you're still just a pawn. The ice will obey me." "No," Naruto said, his voice low and filled with resolve. "I control the ice. Not you." With a surge of willpower, Naruto reached out with his chakra, commanding the ice to form into a blade of solid frost. He thrust it forward, shattering the dark chakra that surrounded the rogue leader. The leader staggered back, his face twisted in frustration. "You fool," the rogue sneered. "You've only delayed the inevitable. The ice belongs to me." Naruto's heart pounded, but he didn't falter. With Ino by his side, he could feel the ice inside him calm, his control stronger than before. "I won't let this darkness consume me. I'll protect everyone." With a final burst of energy, Naruto launched forward, his ice blade slicing through the rogue's defenses. The rogue leader's body crumpled under the force of the blow, and with a final shout, he was encased in a solid block of ice, his dark chakra dissipating into nothing. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun, the rogue shinobi defeated and their plans foiled. But as Naruto stood amidst the wreckage of the battle, his body trembling from the exertion, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The thaw. As the dust settled and the village began to recover, Naruto stood beside Ino once again, the weight of the battle still heavy on his chest. He had controlled the ice, barely, but the fear of what lay ahead still lingered. Ino turned to him, her eyes soft but filled with pride. "You did it, Naruto. You stayed in control." Naruto smiled, though it was a faint smile. "Yeah. But it's getting harder every time." Ino placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch grounding him once more. "We'll face it together. You don't have to fight this alone." Naruto's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thanks, Ino. I don't think I could do this without you." Together, they stood side by side, ready for whatever storm lay ahead. Chapter 19: The Unseen Enemy. The village of Konoha had settled into a brief period of calm after the recent battle. But that peace was always fragile, and Naruto could feel it in the air. The lingering tension from the rogue shinobi and their dark chakra still weighed heavily on him. The ice inside him, once something he had begun to control, was now a constant companion, always there, always pulling at him, a reminder of the power he had yet to truly master. Naruto sat on a rooftop, gazing at the setting sun, its warm hues casting long shadows across the village. The beauty of the moment did little to soothe the turmoil inside him. He had promised himself that he wouldn't let the ice control him, but every day, the pressure grew. "Is this how it ends?" he thought. "Will I lose myself to this power?" "Ino," he muttered under his breath, the weight of his doubts gnawing at him. "I don't want to drag her into this." As if summoned by his thoughts, Ino appeared beside him, her gaze soft and knowing. She sat next to him, not asking any questions, just being there. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with the understanding that neither of them needed to say anything to feel connected. "You've been quiet lately," Ino said. Her voice gentle yet filled with concern. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Naruto turned to look at her, meeting her eyes for the first time in a while. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He hadn't wanted to burden her with his struggles, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was slipping. "The ice," he began, his voice low. "Every time I think I have it under control, it feels like it's slipping away. It's not just the power anymore, Ino. It's me. I don't know if I can keep it in check." Ino's expression softened, and she placed a hand gently on his arm, her touch warm and reassuring. "You've come so far, Naruto. And I'm here. You don't have to face this alone." Naruto closed his eyes, feeling the familiar warmth of her words reach him. "I'm not alone," he reminded himself, but the fear of losing control still lingered. "I just don't want to hurt anyone. I can feel the ice pulling at me every time I use it. What if one day, I can't control it? What if it takes over?" Ino's gaze never wavered. "You've always carried the burden of protecting everyone. But it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to be scared, Naruto. You're only human. But I know you. I know you won't let it control you." Naruto looked at her, his heart full of conflicting emotions. "She believes in me, even when I don't believe in myself." "I'll try," he said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. "For you. For the village." Ino smiled, her eyes soft. "For us. We'll do this together." A new threat approaches. The next morning, the village was shaken by a new development. The Hokage's office had gathered the key shinobi to address the latest intel they'd received. Tsunade's face was grim as she briefed the team. "We've received word of a new enemy that has been gathering power," Tsunade began, her voice firm. "They've been moving through the land of fire, and we believe they're connected to the rogue faction we've been dealing with." Naruto and Ino exchanged a concerned glance. Not again, Naruto thought. Tsunade continued, her eyes scanning the map in front of her. This new enemy is more organized, and they're not just after the cursed chakra this time. We believe they are searching for something even more dangerous, a source of power that could tip the balance of everything we've worked to protect. Naruto stepped forward, his fists clenched. We'll stop them. Whatever they're after, we won't let them have it. Sakura and Lee nodded, ready for action. Sai remained quiet, his expression unreadable, but his focus sharp. Ino placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, offering silent support. Tsunade looked at them all, her expression serious. The mission will require stealth. We can't afford to reveal our hand too early. I need you all to gather information and neutralize this threat before they can gain access to whatever they're after. Naruto nodded, determined. We won't let them succeed. With the plan in place, the team set out for the hidden location where the enemy had been spotted. As they moved through the forests of the Land of Fire, the air seemed to grow heavier, the forest darker. It felt as though they were walking into the heart of a storm. The heart of the enemy. After several days of tracking, the team arrived at the location, an old temple hidden deep in the forest. The air around it felt thick, almost oppressive, and Naruto could feel the ice stirring inside him in response to the dark energy radiating from the temple. This is it, Lee said, his voice low as he surveyed the area. I can feel the chakra. It's coming from within. Naruto nodded, his senses on high alert. The ice inside him pulsed with a strange resonance, almost as if it were responding to the darkness around them. Ino stepped closer to Naruto, her voice a whisper. Stay focused. Don't let it take hold of you. Naruto turned to her, his eyes filled with resolve. I won't. Not with you here. The group made their way inside the temple, their footsteps echoing through the hollow stone halls. The atmosphere was suffocating, and Naruto could feel the presence of someone, waiting for them. As they approached the heart of the temple, they encountered a group of masked figures, each cloaked in shadows. The leader of the group, tall and imposing, stepped forward, his eyes glowing with dark chakra. Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki, the leader said, his voice smooth and cold. I've been waiting for you. Naruto's heart clenched. So this is the enemy. The leader raised his hand, and the air around them grew colder, the ice inside Naruto reacting violently. He could feel it again, its pull, its power. The leader's dark chakra was suffocating, pushing at the ice like a flood. You've come far, the leader continued, but you will never truly control the ice. It is mine to command. Naruto's body trembled, the ice threatening to surge out of control. His fists clenched, and he could feel the darkness pressing in on him, trying to take him. No, Naruto whispered, his voice shaking with the effort of holding back the ice. I control it. Not you. The leader laughed darkly, raising his hand as the dark energy intensified. We will see about that. Naruto's ice powers flared to life, but this time, Ino was right by his side. She placed her hand on his arm, grounding him with her presence. Naruto. Remember, we're in this together. With Ino's words, Naruto's resolve solidified. He focused on her, on the bond they shared, and the ice obeyed. Slowly, he forced the darkness back, using the power of his will and his connection to Ino to regain control. The rogue leader's dark chakra faltered, and with a roar of frustration, he was engulfed by a wave of ice, trapped in a prison of frost. A promise reaffirmed. The battle ended, the temple once again silent. The rogue leader was defeated, but Naruto felt the weight of the struggle in his chest. He had won, but just barely. The ice inside him had surged like never before, and it was becoming harder to keep it under control. Ino stood beside him, her hand finding his once more. You did it, Naruto. You stayed in control. Naruto exhaled slowly, still feeling the lingering presence of the dark chakra. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. Every time it feels like I'm on the edge. Ino smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. You don't have to do this alone, Naruto. I'm with you, always. Naruto looked at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. I'm lucky to have you. Together, they stood side by side, their bond unbreakable. The ice might always be a part of him, but with Ino by his side, he knew he could face whatever storms came next. Chapter 20, A Promise Fulfilled. Years had passed since the events that brought Naruto and Ino closer than ever. The battles they had fought, the hardships they had endured, those struggles had only strengthened their bond. Now, as they stood at the pinnacle of their journey, there was a sense of calm that had eluded them for so long. The ice inside Naruto was no longer a threat, it was simply a part of him, one he had learned to control with the help of Ino's unwavering support. The Hidden Leaf Village had flourished, and peace reigned over the land. Naruto had risen through the ranks, his dream of becoming Hokage now within his grasp. But there was something far more important than titles, than power, the family they had built together. Naruto stood by the window in the Hokage's office, his hands pressed against the glass as he gazed out over the village. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light across the rooftops, and for a brief moment, the world felt still, peaceful. Ino, I can't believe it's finally happening, he said, his voice filled with awe. We've been through so much, and now, we're here. Together. Ino walked up beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Her presence was a comfort, as it always had been. They had faced countless dangers, had seen their fair share of darkness, but together, they had built something strong, something unbreakable. I've always known you'd get there, she said, her voice soft but filled with pride. You've always had that determination, that heart. And I knew you'd never give up, no matter what came your way. Naruto smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. I never could have done it without you, Ino. You've been there for me through everything. You're not just my partner in the village, you're my partner in life. Ino's eyes softened, and she leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. You know I'll always be by your side, Naruto. We're in this together. Their moments of quiet peace were often the most precious. In the years since their first battle together, their love had only deepened. They had faced trials and triumphs alike, but through it all, their bond had remained unshakable. The day of their wedding. The day of their wedding was a celebration unlike any other in the village's history. The streets were lined with flowers, and the air was filled with laughter and music. The entire village gathered to witness the union of two of Konoha's most beloved shinobi. Naruto stood at the altar, his heart racing as he waited for Ino to arrive. He couldn't help but think back on the journey that had brought them here, the battles, the trials, the moments of doubt. But through it all, Ino had been by his side, never wavering, always supporting him. He turned to see her walking down the aisle, her smile radiant, her eyes filled with love. She wore a beautiful white dress that shimmered in the sunlight, and for a moment, Naruto forgot everything around him. It was just her, just Ino, and in that moment, he knew that all the struggles they had faced were worth it. Ino reached the altar, and they exchanged vows, promising to stand by each other, no matter what the future held. The ceremony was filled with joy, laughter, and tears, but above all, it was a celebration of love, the love they had fought so hard for and built together. As the ceremony ended, the newlyweds were showered with flower petals and cheers from their friends and family. Ino took Naruto's hand, her fingers intertwining with his as they shared a quiet moment alone. I've been waiting for this moment, Ino said, her voice soft and filled with emotion. For us to finally be here, together. Naruto smiled, his heart full. Me too. This is just the beginning, Ino. We've got so much ahead of us. A new beginning. Years passed, and their love continued to grow. They settled into a peaceful life together, with Naruto balancing his duties as Hokage and Ino by his side, always there to offer support and guidance. They had children, 2 beautiful kids who filled their lives with laughter and joy. Their family was everything to them, and their love only deepened with each passing day. Naruto had achieved his dream of becoming Hokage, but he realized that the true measure of his success was the love and happiness he shared with Ino and their children. It was a life full of meaning, of connection, and of understanding. One quiet evening, after their children had gone to bed, Naruto and Ino found themselves alone in their home, the soft glow of the moonlight filtering through the windows. Naruto sat down beside Ino, his hand finding hers. "Ino, I never thought I could have everything I've ever wanted. But with you, I have more than I could have ever dreamed of." Ino smiled at him, her eyes filled with love. "And I've always known that together, we could face anything. No matter how hard it got, we'd always have each other." Naruto leaned in, pressing his forehead against hers. "I promise, I'll never stop fighting for you. For us." Ino smiled, her voice barely a whisper. "I know. And I'll always fight for you, Naruto. Forever." They sat together in silence, the world outside fading away as they embraced the peace they had fought so hard to create. The legacy of love. And so, Naruto and Ino continued their journey together, their love a beacon of hope in a world that had once been filled with darkness. They built a family, raised their children with the same values they had learned, and left a legacy of love and peace for the generations to come. Their story was one of struggle and triumph, of growth and sacrifice, but most of all, it was a story of love. A love that had been forged in battle, tested by hardship, and strengthened by the unbreakable bond they shared. Naruto and Ino knew that the challenges of the world would never truly disappear, but with each other by their side, they were ready for anything. Together, they were unstoppable. The story of Naruto and Ino's love was just one chapter in a long and beautiful tale. And as they stood hand in hand, looking toward the future, they knew that their journey would continue, for as long as they had each other. The end to my story.